The Big Bang did not bang. There was no explosion, no thunderous roar echoing through an empty void, no cosmic fireworks announcing the birth of everything you know. In this very moment, as you read these words, you are living inside the greatest lie ever told. A lie so fundamental, so deeply embedded in our understanding of existence that questioning it feels like questioning the ground beneath your feet. But what if I told you that the ground beneath your feet doesn't exist either? What if the universe you think you inhabit is nothing more than a shadow cast by something so vast, so incomprehensible, that your mind would shatter, trying to grasp even a fraction of its true nature? You've been living in a prison made of light, time, and space. A prison so beautiful, so perfectly constructed, that you mistake it for paradise. Every star you see twinkling in the night sky, every galaxy spiraling through the cosmic darkness, every particle of matter that makes up your body, all of it exists within the confines of this cosmic cage. And beyond those bars, something waits. Something that makes our entire observable universe look like a single grain of sand on an infinite beach, a fleeting thought in the mind of something unimaginably greater. The story begins not with a bang, but with a whisper that has been echoing through the corridors of scientific discovery for decades, growing louder with each new revelation, each impossible observation that doesn't fit our neat little theories about how reality should work. You see, the universe has been trying to tell us something. It's been leaving clues, breadcrumbs scattered across the cosmic landscape, signs that point to a truth so profound it would rewrite every textbook, every equation, every assumption we've ever made about the nature of existence itself. Consider this. Right now, as you sit in your familiar world of solid objects and predictable physics, you are moving through space at over 2 million miles per hour. The Earth spins, the solar system hurtles through the galaxy races through the cosmic web, and the cosmic web itself is expanding, carrying you along on a journey through dimensions you cannot see, toward a destination you cannot imagine. But here's the unsettling part. You're not moving through empty space. You're moving through something far stranger. Something that exists in the spaces between spaces. In the silence between heartbeats. In the darkness between thoughts. The ancient Greeks had a word for it. The void. They believed that nothing could exist in nothingness. That nature abhors a vacuum. They were wrong about the vacuum, but they were right about something else. The void is not empty. It seethes with invisible energies, quantum fluctuations that pop in and out of existence faster than light can travel. Virtual particles that dance on the edge of reality itself. But even this quantum foam, this bubbling cauldron of potential existence, may be nothing more than the surface of something infinitely deeper. Imagine standing at the edge of an ocean at night. The waves lap at your feet, and you can see the moonlight dancing on the water's surface, but you cannot see the depths below. You know there are creatures down there, vast and alien, living in a world of eternal darkness and crushing pressure. You know there are mountain ranges and valleys, entire landscapes hidden beneath the waves, but you cannot see them. You can only stand at the edge and wonder. This is humanity's relationship with the universe. We are standing at the edge of an infinite ocean, and we have mistaken the foam on the surface for the entirety of existence. The first hint that something was wrong came in the early 20th century, when astronomers pointed their telescopes at the night sky and discovered something impossible. The universe was not slowing down, as gravity should have demanded. It was speeding up. Galaxies were not just moving away from us, they were accelerating, as if something was pushing them from behind or pulling them from ahead. Scientists gave this mysterious force a name: dark energy. But calling it dark energy is like calling the ocean wet water. It tells you what it does, not what it is. Dark energy makes up roughly 70% of everything that exists. Let that sink in for a moment. 7 out of every 10 pieces of reality are composed of something we cannot see, cannot touch, cannot understand. We are living in a universe where the vast majority of existence is invisible to us, where the very fabric of space-time is woven from threads we cannot perceive. It's as if you discovered that 70% of your own body was made of something you had never noticed, something that had been there all along, quietly keeping you alive, quietly shaping your every experience. But dark energy is just the beginning. Another 25% of the universe is made of dark matter, invisible mass that bends space, guides the formation of galaxies, and holds the cosmic web together like an invisible scaffold. Dark matter particles pass through your body by the billions every second, ghostly messengers from the hidden side of reality. They stream through the earth as if it were made of mist, carrying with them secrets about the true structure of existence. This means that only 5% of the universe is made of ordinary matter, the atoms and molecules that compose stars, planets, and everything you've ever seen or touched. 5%. You are living in the tiny visible corner of a vast, dark reality. It's like being a mayfly that lives for a single day, convinced that its brief existence represents the full scope of time, unaware of the eons that came before and the eternities that will follow. The implications are staggering. If 95% of reality is hidden from us, what else might we be missing? What other dimensions, what other forms of existence, what other kinds of consciousness might be operating just beyond the reach of our senses? The universe we think we know, with its galaxies and stars and planets, might be nothing more than a thin film of foam floating on the surface of an ocean so deep that its bottom has never been touched by light, so vast that its shores extend beyond the very concept of distance itself. This is where the story becomes truly unsettling, because the more we learn about the hidden universe, the more we realize that the boundaries of reality are not where we thought they were. The edge of the observable universe, that sphere of space, roughly 28 billion light-years in radius that represents the limit of what we can see, is not the edge of existence. It's just the edge of our vision. Beyond that boundary lies more universe, potentially infinite realities stacked upon realities, like layers in an onion that has no core. But even this expanded view of reality might be too small. Recent discoveries in physics suggest that our entire universe, all of space, all of time, all of matter and energy, might be nothing more than a single bubble floating in a cosmic sea of infinite bubbles. Each bubble represents a different universe with different laws of physics, different constants, different possibilities. In some of these universes, stars never form. In others, time runs backward. In still others, consciousness takes forms so alien that we lack the words to describe them. This is the multiverse. Not just a collection of different universes, but a meta-reality that contains all possible realities. And if the multiverse exists, then everything you think you know about your place in existence must be reconsidered. You are not just a human being on a planet orbiting a star in a galaxy among billions of galaxies. You are a conscious observer in one specific slice of infinity, surrounded by infinite other slices, where infinite other versions of yourself are living infinite other lives, making infinite other choices, experiencing infinite other realities. The Mathematics of quantum mechanics demands this. Every time a quantum particle makes a choice, every time it decides to be in one place rather than another, to have one property rather than another, the universe splits. What we experience as a single timeline is actually just one branch of an infinitely branching tree of possibilities. Somewhere in the multiverse, there's a version of you that made every different choice you've ever considered. Somewhere, there's a version of you that became everything you ever dreamed of becoming. Somewhere, there's a version of you that never existed at all. But even the multiverse might not be the end of the story. Some theories suggest that reality has layers upon layers, dimensions upon dimensions, scales of existence so vast that the multiverse itself becomes just another mote of dust in an even greater cosmic structure. We might be living in a simulation, a projection, a dream within a dream within a dream. The solid matter of your body might be nothing more than information, data points in a cosmic computer program written by intelligences so advanced that they exist outside the very concepts of space and time. This is the rabbit hole that modern physics has opened beneath our feet. The deeper we dig, the stranger reality becomes. The more we learn, the more we realize how little we actually know. We are like children who have learned to count to 10 and think we understand mathematics, unaware that infinity stretches beyond our comprehension in both directions. Consider the nature of time itself. You experience time as a flowing river, carrying you from past to future, from birth to death, from moment to moment. But Einstein showed us that time is relative, that it can stretch and compress, that it can be bent and twisted like a piece of cosmic taffy. From the perspective of the universe itself, all of time, past, present, and future, exists simultaneously. Every moment that has ever been or ever will be is happening right now, spread out across the four-dimensional landscape of space-time like frames in an infinite movie reel. This means that the moment of your birth and the moment of your death are equally real, equally present. They exist in the same eternal now, separated only by your limited perspective as a conscious being moving through the temporal dimension. Your entire life, every experience you've ever had or ever will have, already exists in its completion. Free will becomes a paradox, causality becomes a question mark, and the very notion of becoming dissolves into a strange eternal being that encompasses all possibilities simultaneously. Space is equally mysterious. The three dimensions you navigate every day, length, width, and height, might be just the tip of an 11-dimensional iceberg. String theory suggests that reality is composed of tiny vibrating strings existing in 11 dimensions, with their extra dimensions curled up so small that we cannot perceive them. These hidden dimensions might be vast, containing entire universes of their own. We might be living on a three-dimensional membrane, floating in a higher dimensional space, like characters in a painting unaware of the room in which the painting hangs. The implications stretch the mind beyond its breaking point. If higher dimensions exist, then beings might exist within them. Beings with access to perspectives and powers that would make them seem like gods to us. They could step outside our three-dimensional space and observe us from angles we cannot. Imagine, manipulate matter and energy in ways that would violate every law of physics we know. Travel instantly from one point to another by taking shortcuts through the higher dimensions. From their perspective, we might appear as flat, two-dimensional, shadows projected onto a wall, unaware of the vast three-dimensional world surrounding us. They might watch our entire history unfold simultaneously, seeing our past and future as easily as we see different parts of a landscape. They might move through time as easily as we move through space, visiting any moment they choose, witnessing every event that has ever occurred or ever will occur. This is the vertigo-inducing reality that modern science has uncovered. We are not living in the universe we thought we were living in. We are not the conscious, three-dimensional beings moving through time and space that we imagine ourselves to be. We are something far stranger, far more mysterious, far more connected to the infinite depths of reality than we ever dared to suppose. The universe is not a machine. It's not a clockwork mechanism ticking away according to predictable laws. It's something alive, something conscious, something that responds to observation and thought in ways that suggest the boundary between mind and matter is far more porous than we ever imagined. Quantum mechanics tells us that the act of observation changes reality. That consciousness plays a fundamental role in determining what exists and what doesn't exist. This means that you are not just a passive observer of reality. You are an active participant in its creation. Every time you look at something, every time you think about something, every time you make a choice, you are literally shaping the fabric of existence itself. The universe is not happening to you. You are happening to the universe. Reality is not a movie you are watching. It's a story you are writing with every breath, every heartbeat, every firing of a neuron in your brain. But if consciousness plays such a fundamental role in reality, then what does that say about the nature of consciousness itself? What does it say about the nature of you? Are you really just a collection of atoms and molecules? A biological machine that happens to have developed the illusion of self-awareness? Or are you something more fundamental? Something that exists at the very foundation of reality itself? The questions multiply like fractals, each answer spawning a dozen new mysteries. If the universe is mostly invisible, if reality has multiple layers, if consciousness shapes existence, then what lies beyond the edges of everything we can see, or think, or imagine? What exists in the spaces between the multiverse? What dreams in the dimensions beyond dimension? What consciousness contemplates the consciousness that contemplates reality? You stand at the threshold of a mystery so vast that it makes the observable universe look like a grain of sand on an infinite beach. Behind you lies everything you thought you knew about existence. The familiar world of solid objects and predictable cause and effect. The comforting illusion that reality is comprehensible and manageable. Ahead of you lies the truth. A truth so strange, so beautiful, so terrifying that it will change everything you think you know about who you are and where you exist. The journey is about to begin. The cosmic story is about to unfold. The greatest adventure in the history of human consciousness is about to commence. But be warned. Once you step through this doorway, once you glimpse what lies beyond the universe, you can never return to the simple, small reality you once called home. The vastness will have entered your mind. The infinity will have touched your soul, and you will spend the rest of your existence wondering not what lies beyond the universe, but what lies beyond the beyond, and what lies beyond that. The universe is not what you think it is. Reality is not what you think it is. You are not what you think you are. And what lies beyond everything you can possibly imagine is about to reveal itself to you, one impossible truth at a time. The cosmic veil is about to be lifted, and behind it waits something that will make you question everything you have ever believed about the nature of existence itself. Are you ready to discover what lies beyond the universe? Are you prepared to learn that the beyond itself might be just another beginning? Are you willing to accept that the greatest mystery of all might not be what exists beyond reality, but why anything exists at all? The journey begins now, in this moment, with the recognition that this moment itself might be an illusion, a single frame in an infinite movie that has no beginning and no end, no edges and no center, no purpose and no meaning except the meaning. You bring to it through the miracle of your own impossible existence. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. This number has been carved into our understanding of reality with the precision of a mathematical theorem, verified by multiple independent observations, cross-checked by generations of cosmologists who stake their careers on its accuracy. The temporal foundation upon which all of cosmic history rests. The moment when time itself began ticking, when space started expanding, when the first laws of physics crystallized from the quantum foam of pure possibility. But what if this number is wrong? Not slightly wrong, not off by a few million years due to measurement error, but fundamentally, catastrophically wrong in a way that would shatter our entire understanding of existence itself. The early universe wasn't just hot. It was a furnace where time itself was still learning to move, where space hadn't yet decided what it wanted to become, where the very concept of causality was being written in real time by forces we can barely comprehend. In those first moments after the Big Bang, the universe was compressed into a volume smaller than a proton, heated to temperatures that would make the core of the sun seem like a frozen wasteland, dense beyond any earthly comparison. Imagine trying to contain the entire Pacific Ocean in a thimble. Now imagine that thimble is also trying to contain every star in the Milky Way, every planet, every grain of sand on every beach that has ever existed or ever will exist. The pressure would be infinite. The temperature would be infinite. The density would be infinite. This is the singularity, the mathematical point where all our equations break down and physics itself admits defeat. Yet from this infinitely dense, infinitely hot point, the universe began to expand. Not into empty space. There was no space to expand into, but creating space as it went, writing the laws of geometry and distance into the fabric of reality itself. In the first fraction of a second, the universe grew from smaller than an atom to larger than a grapefruit. In the next fraction of a second, it grew to the size of a basketball, then a building, then a city, then a planet, then a solar system. This is cosmic inflation, the period when the universe expanded faster than the speed of light, not violating Einstein's prohibition against faster-than-light travel, but rather expanding the very space through which light would eventually travel. It's like blowing up a balloon while someone tries to run across its surface. The runner isn't breaking any speed limits, but the surface beneath their feet is expanding so rapidly that they're carried along faster than they could ever hope to run. During this inflationary epoch, quantum fluctuations in the fabric of space-time were stretched to cosmic proportions, creating the seeds of structure that would eventually become galaxies, stars, and planets. The universe was writing its own autobiography in the language of quantum mechanics, inscribing the story of its future evolution in microscopic variations of density and temperature that would echo through billions of years of cosmic history. But here's where the comfortable narrative begins to crack. The cosmic microwave background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang that fills all of space, shows us a universe that was remarkably uniform in its early stages. The temperature, variations across the entire sky are less than 1 part in 100,000. This uniformity is so perfect that it seems almost artificial, like a cosmic thermostat set with impossible precision. This uniformity creates what cosmologists call the horizon problem. Light travels at a finite speed, and in the early universe, there simply wasn't enough time for distant regions to communicate with each other and equilibrate their temperatures. It's like finding that two isolated rooms in a vast building, with no connecting doors or windows, maintain exactly the same temperature to within 1,000th of a degree. The similarity is so precise that it suggests some kind of coordination, some mechanism for information exchange that we don't understand. Cosmic inflation was proposed as a solution to this problem. If the universe underwent a period of exponential expansion, then regions that are now separated by billions of light-years could have been in thermal contact before inflation began. The uniformity we observe today would be the stretched-out signature of this early thermal equilibrium. But inflation itself raises more questions than it answers. What caused it to begin? What caused it to end? Why did it produce exactly the right amount of expansion to create a universe that could support the formation of stars and galaxies? The inflationary scenario requires a special kind of energy field, the inflaton field, that has properties unlike anything we've ever observed in nature. This field would need to dominate the energy density of the early universe, driving the exponential expansion and then decay into the ordinary matter and energy that we see today. It would need to do this with exquisite timing and precision. Too little inflation, and the universe would collapse back on itself before stars could form. Too much inflation, and the universe would expand so rapidly that matter would never have a chance to clump together into galaxies. The fine-tuning required for inflation to work is so precise that it makes the universe seem almost designed. It's as if someone carefully calibrated the cosmic machinery to produce exactly the right conditions for complexity, structure, and ultimately, consciousness. This precision is so unlikely that it suggests either incredible luck or intentional engineering. But even if we accept inflation as the solution to the horizon problem, we're left with deeper mysteries. What existed before inflation? The standard cosmological model tells us that time itself began with the Big Bang, that there was no before in any meaningful sense. But this answer feels like a philosophical sleight of hand, a way of avoiding the question rather than answering it. Recent observations have revealed structures in the universe that challenge our understanding of cosmic evolution. The cosmic web, the largest-scale structure in the universe, consists of vast filaments, of galaxies separated by enormous voids. These filaments stretch for hundreds of millions of light-years, creating a foam-like structure that resembles the neural networks in a brain or the mycelial networks of underground fungi. The similarity is so striking that it can't be coincidental. The universe, at its largest scales, appears to be organized like a vast information processing system. Galaxies cluster along filaments, like neurons connected by synaptic pathways. Dark matter flows along these cosmic highways like signals traveling through neural networks. The entire structure pulses with electromagnetic activity as charged particles spiral through magnetic fields that span intergalactic distances. This cosmic web took billions of years to form, growing from tiny quantum fluctuations into the massive structures we observe today. But when we look at the most distant galaxies, those we see as they were in the early universe, we find structures that are too large, too organized, too mature to have formed in the time available. It's like finding a fully grown oak tree in a forest that was planted last year. The James Webb Space Telescope has made this problem even more acute. Its infrared vision can peer through the cosmic dust that obscures our view of the early universe, revealing galaxies that formed just a few 100 million years after the Big Bang. These galaxies are not the simple, chaotic collections of gas and dust that our models predict. They're sophisticated spiral galaxies with well-defined structures, massive central black holes, and evidence of multiple generations of star formation. Some of these early galaxies are more massive than the Milky Way, Despite having formed when the universe was supposedly just a cosmic infant, they contain populations of stars that are chemically mature, rich in heavy elements that should have taken multiple generations of stellar evolution to produce. It's as if these galaxies had been evolving for billions of years, longer than the age of the universe itself. The standard explanation is that star formation was more efficient in the early universe, that the first stars were more massive and shorter-lived than we had assumed, that the processes of galaxy formation proceeded more rapidly than our models predicted. But these explanations feel forced, like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. They preserve the framework of our cosmological model by adjusting the parameters, but they don't address the fundamental question of why the early universe was so different from what we expected. There's another possibility, one that most cosmologists are reluctant to consider. What if the universe is older than we think? What if the Big Bang was not the beginning of everything, but rather a transition point, a moment when one phase of cosmic evolution gave way to another? What if the structures we see in the early universe are not anomalies, but fossils, remnants of a previous cosmic epoch that somehow survived the transition? This idea challenges the very foundation of modern cosmology. It suggests that the cosmic microwave background radiation is not the afterglow of creation, but rather the boundary between two different phases of cosmic history. It implies that the universe has a deeper history than we've ever imagined, a pre-Big Bang phase that left its signature in the patterns of matter and energy we observe today. But if the universe is older than 13.8 billion years, then we need to reconsider everything we think we know about cosmic evolution. The formation of the first stars, the assembly of the first galaxies, the emergence of the first black holes. All of these processes would have had more time to unfold, more opportunities to create the complex structures we observe in the early universe. This possibility is both thrilling and terrifying. Thrilling because it suggests that the universe is even more vast and ancient than we had dared to imagine. Terrifying because it means that our understanding of cosmic history is fundamentally incomplete, that we're missing crucial chapters in the story of how the universe came to be. The evidence for an older universe is subtle but growing. The cosmic microwave background itself shows anomalies that don't fit our standard model. There are cold spots that are too large to have formed through the normal processes of cosmic evolution. There are correlations between temperature fluctuations that extend across scales that should be causally disconnected. These features suggest that the early universe was not as simple or as uniform as we had assumed. Dark matter and dark energy add another layer of mystery to the cosmic puzzle. Together, they comprise 95% of the universe's mass energy content. Yet we have no direct evidence for their existence. We infer their presence from their gravitational effects on ordinary matter. But we don't know what they are, where they came from, or why they have the properties they do. Dark matter appears to be a form of matter that interacts only gravitationally with ordinary matter. It doesn't emit light, doesn't absorb light, doesn't interact electromagnetically at all. It's like a cosmic ghost, invisible except for its gravitational influence on the visible universe. Yet without dark matter, galaxies would fly apart, the cosmic web would collapse, and the universe as we know it would not exist. Dark energy is even more mysterious. It appears to be a property of space itself, a repulsive force that drives the accelerating expansion of the universe. As the universe expands, more space is created, and with it, more dark energy. This leads to a runaway process where the expansion of the universe accelerates over time, eventually leading to a future where galaxies are so far apart that they disappear beyond each other's cosmic horizons. The nature of dark energy challenges our understanding of the vacuum of space. We think of empty space as truly empty, but quantum mechanics tells us that even the vacuum is filled with virtual particles that pop in and out of existence. These quantum fluctuations should contribute to the energy density of space, but when we calculate their expected contribution, we get a number that is 120 orders of magnitude larger than what we observe. This is called the cosmological constant problem, and it's one of the greatest unsolved problems in physics. The discrepancy between theory and observation is so large that it suggests we're missing something fundamental about the nature of space, time, and quantum mechanics. It's as if our equations are describing a completely different universe than the one we actually inhabit. Some theorists have proposed that dark energy is not a property of space itself, but rather a manifestation of extra dimensions beyond the 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time that we normally experience. In these theories, our universe is like a membrane floating in a higher dimensional space, and dark energy is the result of gravitational interactions with other membranes that we cannot directly perceive. These extra dimensions would be curled up or compactified in such a way that they don't affect the physics we observe at everyday scales. But at cosmic scales, their influence becomes apparent in the form of dark energy. If this is true, then our 3-dimensional universe is just a shadow of a higher dimensional reality, a projection of a more complex structure that exists beyond our ability to perceive it directly. The mathematics of higher dimensional physics is beautiful and elegant, but it leads to conclusions that are difficult to accept. If extra dimensions exist, then the universe is far stranger and more complex than we can imagine. There could be entire universes existing parallel to ours, separated by microscopic distances in dimensions we cannot access. There could be forms of matter and energy that exist only in the higher dimensional space, invisible to us, but influencing our universe through their gravitational effects. This brings us to the question of what lies beyond the observable universe. The cosmic microwave background represents the edge of our cosmic horizon, the furthest distance we can see into space and time. Beyond this boundary, the universe continues, but we cannot observe it directly. Light from these distant regions has not had time to reach us since the Big Bang occurred. But the universe beyond our cosmic horizon is not necessarily the same as the universe we can observe. If the universe underwent a period of cosmic inflation, then regions that are now beyond our horizon could have very different properties than our local region. They could have different values for the fundamental constants of physics. They could have different numbers of dimensions. They could have entirely different laws of nature. This leads to the concept of the multiverse, the idea that our observable universe is just one small patch in an infinite cosmic landscape. Each patch could have its own Big Bang, its own cosmic history, its own set of physical laws. The multiverse would be like a cosmic foam, with each bubble representing a different universe with different properties. In this scenario, the fine-tuning of our universe's physical constants would be explained by selection effects. Out of the infinite number of universes in the multiverse, only a tiny fraction would have the right conditions for the formation of stars, planets, and life. We find ourselves in one of these rare universes not because it was designed for us, but because we can only exist in universes that have the right properties. But the multiverse concept raises its own problems. If there are infinite universes with every possible set of physical laws, then there should be universes where the laws change over time, where causality breaks down, where logic itself doesn't apply. In some of these universes, your life would be a constant series of miracles. In others, the laws of physics would be so different that consciousness itself would be impossible. The multiverse also raises questions about the nature of probability and prediction. If everything that can happen does happen somewhere in the multiverse, then what does it mean to say that something is likely or unlikely? How can we make scientific predictions if every possible outcome occurs in some universe? These questions point to a deeper problem with our understanding of the universe's structure and evolution. We've built our cosmological models on the assumption that the universe is homogeneous and isotropic, that it looks the same in all directions and at all locations. But this assumption may be wrong. Recent observations have revealed large-scale structures in the universe that challenge the assumption of homogeneity. The cosmic web itself is not uniform. It has preferred directions, alignments that extend across billions of light years. There are vast supervoids where galaxies are rare, and dense superclusters where galaxies are packed together. The distribution of matter in the universe is more complex and structured than our models predict. If the universe is not homogeneous, then our distance measurements could be systematically wrong. The expansion rate of the universe could vary from place to place. The age of the universe could be different in different regions. We might be living in a cosmic backwater, a region where the expansion rate is slower than average, making the universe appear younger than it actually is. This possibility is supported by observations of the cosmic microwave background, which show evidence of large-scale flows of matter, bulk motions of entire galaxy clusters in preferred directions. These flows suggest that there are massive concentrations of matter beyond our cosmic horizon, gravitationally attracting the matter we can observe. The scale of these flows is enormous, hundreds of millions of light years, and they persist to the edge of our observable universe. This suggests that the structures responsible for these flows are even larger than we can directly observe, lying beyond our cosmic horizon in regions we cannot see. If such massive structures exist beyond our observable universe, then our models of cosmic evolution are incomplete. We're like observers standing in a valley, trying to understand the geography of an entire continent by studying only the small patch of land visible from our position. The true structure of the universe could be far more complex and interesting than we can imagine from our limited perspective. The question of what lies beyond our universe becomes even more intriguing when we consider the possibility that space and time themselves might be emergent properties of something more fundamental. In some theories of quantum gravity, space and time are not the basic building blocks of reality, but rather collective phenomena that emerge from the interactions of more fundamental entities. It's like the way temperature emerges from the motion of atoms, or the way waves emerge from the oscillations of water molecules. At the microscopic level, there are no waves, just individual molecules moving up and down. But at the macroscopic level, the collective behavior of these molecules creates the phenomena we call waves. Similarly, space and time might be collective phenomena that emerge from the interactions of entities that exist at a more fundamental level of reality. If this is true, then the question of what lies beyond our universe becomes the question of what lies beyond space and time themselves. It's a question that pushes the boundaries of human comprehension, because all of our concepts and language are embedded in the framework of space and time. How can we imagine something that exists outside of space and time when our very ability to imagine is constrained by spatial and temporal concepts? Yet this is exactly the question that modern physics is forcing us to confront. The deeper we probe into the nature of reality, the more we discover that our everyday experience of space and time is just the surface of something far more profound and mysterious. The universe is not just bigger than we imagined, it's stranger than we can imagine, operating according to principles that challenge our most basic assumptions about the nature of existence itself. The cosmic setup we've described, the 13.8 billion-year-old universe expanding from a Big Bang singularity, is just the prologue to a much larger story. It's the story of how finite beings like ourselves came to exist in what appears to be an infinite cosmos, how consciousness emerged from unconscious matter, how order arose from chaos, and how the universe became capable of understanding itself. But as we'll see, this story has plot twists that no one anticipated, mysteries that deepen rather than resolve as we gather more data, and implications that transform our understanding of what it means to exist in a cosmos that may be far stranger and more wonderful than we ever dared to imagine. Reality is not what you think it is. This statement isn't philosophical grandstanding. It's the unavoidable conclusion reached by physicists who have spent their careers peering into the fundamental structure of existence itself. What they've discovered is so alien to human intuition that it reads like science fiction. Except the mathematics is real, the observations are verified, and the implications are staggering. Imagine reality as a film reel, where time is not flowing, but every moment that has ever existed or ever will exist already sits there, motionless, in the canister. Past, present, and future are all equally real, equally present. You think you're watching the movie of your life unfold frame by frame, but you're actually just a character frozen in one frame, experiencing the illusion of motion through some mysterious mechanism that remains beyond our understanding. This is block universe theory, also known as eternalism, and it emerges naturally from Einstein's theory of relativity. According to Einstein, simultaneity is relative. What counts as now depends on your reference frame. Two events that appear simultaneous to one observer may occur at different times for another observer moving at a different velocity. This means there is no universal now, no cosmic clock that ticks out the present moment for the entire universe. If there's no universal now, then the division of time into past, present, and future becomes observer-dependent. What you call the present moment is not the present moment for someone traveling at high speed relative to you. Their now includes events in what you consider your future, and excludes events in what you consider your present. This suggests that all moments in time are equally real. They just appear different from different perspectives. The implications are mind-bending. Right now, as you read these words, every moment of your past still exists somewhere in the four-dimensional fabric of space-time. Your first day of school, your first heartbreak, your birth. All of these events are as real as the present moment. They haven't disappeared into some ontological void called the past. They're still there, frozen in the eternal structure of space-time, but if the future also exists in the same way, then everything that will ever happen to you has already happened from some cosmic perspective. Your death exists in the same fundamental sense that your birth exists. Every choice you will ever make has already been made. The universe is not unfolding. It has already unfolded, completely and eternally. This vision of reality transforms our understanding of causation itself. We think of causes producing effects through time, but in the block universe, cause and effect are just geometric relationships in four-dimensional space-time. Your decision to read this sentence doesn't cause you to read it. Both the decision and the reading are just different points on your world line through space-time, connected by the geometry of your existence. Free will becomes a particularly thorny problem in this context. If the future already exists, if every choice you will ever make has already been made from some cosmic perspective, then what does it mean to say that you have free will? Are you really choosing your actions? Or are you just experiencing the unfolding of a predetermined script written in the mathematics of space-time itself? Some philosophers argue that free will is compatible with determinism, that you can be free even if your choices are determined by prior causes. But the block universe suggests something even stranger than determinism. It suggests that causation itself might be an illusion, a projection of our limited perspective onto a timeless reality where everything simply is. Yet even this radical reimagining of time and causation pales in comparison to what happens when we peer into the quantum realm. At the smallest scales of reality, the classical concepts of objects with definite properties moving through space and time completely break down. Quantum mechanics reveals a universe that is fundamentally probabilistic, where particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously, where the act of observation seems to create reality rather than merely revealing it. Consider the famous double-slit experiment, perhaps the most mysterious demonstration in all of physics. When you fire individual particles, photons, electrons, atoms, at a barrier with two slits, something impossible happens. Each particle seems to go through both slits simultaneously, interfering with itself to create an interference pattern on the detector screen. But if you place a detector at one of the slits to see which path the particle actually takes, the interference pattern disappears, and the particle behaves as if it went through only one slit. This isn't just about the limitations of measurement or the clumsiness of our detectors. The mathematics of quantum mechanics tells us that the particle literally exists in a superposition of going through both slits until the moment of detection. It's not that we don't know which slit it went through. It actually went through both slits in some sense that defies classical logic. The implications ripple outward like cracks in a cosmic mirror. If particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously, then what about larger objects made of particles? What about you? Are you existing in a superposition of reading and not reading these words until some cosmic detector collapses your wave function into a definite state? Quantum mechanics seems to suggest that reality is fundamentally observer-dependent. The universe doesn't exist in definite states until conscious observers make measurements that collapse quantum superpositions into classical outcomes. This leads to interpretations of quantum mechanics that are almost mystical in their implications. In the many worlds interpretation, every quantum measurement doesn't collapse the wave function. It splits the universe. Every time a particle goes through the double-slit experiment, reality branches into multiple parallel universes, one where it went through the left slit, one where it went through the right slit, and possibly others where it did something even stranger. You exist in all of these universes simultaneously, but you can only experience one branch at a time. Right now, as you read this sentence, there are countless versions of you in parallel universes making slightly different choices. In some universes, you decided not to read this article. In others, you read it but understood it differently. In still others, the article itself is different because the author made different choices while writing it. Every quantum measurement, every random event, every choice creates new branches in the ever-expanding tree of parallel realities. The many worlds interpretation solves the measurement problem of quantum mechanics by denying that wave function, collapse ever occurs. Instead, all possible outcomes of every quantum measurement actually happen, just in different branches of the universal wave function. This preserves the linear evolution of quantum mechanics while explaining why we only observe definite outcomes. We can only perceive one branch at a time. But it does so at the cost of positing an infinite number of parallel universes, most of which are forever beyond our ability to observe or interact with. It's a solution that trades one mystery for another, replacing the puzzling collapse of the wave function with the even more puzzling existence of infinite parallel realities. The Copenhagen interpretation takes a different approach, suggesting that quantum systems don't have definite properties until they're measured. Reality at the quantum level is fundamentally indeterminate. Particles don't have definite positions, momenta, or spins until interactions with measurement devices force them to choose specific values. This interpretation treats measurement as a fundamentally non-physical process that somehow bridges the gap between the probabilistic quantum world and the determinate classical world. But what constitutes a measurement? Does it require a conscious observer, or is any interaction with a macroscopic system sufficient? The boundaries between quantum and classical systems remain frustratingly unclear, leaving us with a theory that works perfectly in practice but resists all attempts at philosophical interpretation. Even stranger interpretations have been proposed. The participatory universe hypothesis suggests that conscious observation doesn't just reveal reality, it literally creates reality. The universe exists in a state of potential until conscious observers make the choices that collapse quantum possibilities into actual events. In this view, consciousness is not just a byproduct of physical processes. It's a fundamental feature of reality that participates in the creation of the physical world. John Wheeler, one of the architects of modern physics, proposed a thought experiment that illustrates this idea. Imagine a cosmic-scale double-slit experiment where light from a distant quasar is bent around a massive galaxy, creating two possible paths to Earth. We can choose to measure which path the light took by looking for interference patterns, or we can choose to measure which path it took by blocking one of the paths. According to quantum mechanics, our choice of measurement, made billions of years after the light left the quasar, retroactively determines which path the light took through space. This delayed choice experiment suggests that the past is not fixed until it's observed in the present. Reality has a fundamentally open structure where future observations can influence past events. The universe is not just probabilistic, it's retroactively probabilistic, with the future reaching back to determine the past in ways that seem to violate everything we know about causation and temporal order. But quantum mechanics becomes even stranger when we consider the phenomenon of entanglement. When two particles become entangled, they form a single quantum system, even when separated by vast distances. Measuring one particle instantly affects the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance, and argued that it proved quantum mechanics was incomplete. But experiments have confirmed that entanglement is real. When you measure the spin of one entangled particle and find it spinning clockwise, you instantly know that its partner is spinning counterclockwise, even if it's on the other side of the galaxy. The correlation between the particles is instantaneous, apparently violating the cosmic speed limit imposed by the speed of light. This doesn't allow for faster-than-light communication. You can't use entanglement to send information because the results of quantum measurements are random. But it does suggest that reality has a fundamentally non-local structure. The universe is not composed of isolated objects that only influence each other through local interactions. Instead, it's a unified whole where distant parts can share correlations that transcend the limitations of space and time. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that entanglement reveals the true nature of reality as an indivisible wholeness. Individual particles are not separate entities that happen to be correlated. They're manifestations of a deeper unity that underlies the apparent multiplicity of the physical world. When you measure an entangled particle, you're not discovering a pre-existing property. You're participating in a cosmic process that creates reality through the interactions between observers and observed. This leads to even more radical interpretations, where consciousness itself might be quantum mechanical in nature. Some theorists propose that the human brain operates as a quantum computer, with consciousness emerging from quantum processes in microtubules within neurons. If true, this would mean that your thoughts and experiences are literally quantum mechanical phenomena, subject to the same mysterious principles that govern particle behavior at the smallest scales. The idea that consciousness is quantum mechanical opens up possibilities that sound like science fiction. If your thoughts exist in quantum superposition, then you might literally be thinking multiple thoughts simultaneously until something causes your mental state to collapse into a single conscious experience. If consciousness is non-local like quantum entanglement, then individual minds might be connected in ways we don't currently understand. But perhaps the most unsettling implication comes from combining quantum mechanics with cosmology. If the entire universe started as a quantum system, and there's every reason to think it did, then the universe itself might exist in superposition until observed by conscious beings within it. This leads to the participatory anthropic principle. The universe exists because we observe it, and we exist because the universe has the right properties to support conscious observers. This creates a cosmic bootstrap paradox. Consciousness arises from the universe, but the universe requires consciousness to exist in a definite state. We're not just observers of reality. We're participants in its creation, locked in a strange loop where the universe creates us, and we create the universe through the very act of observation. The mathematics of this participatory reality become even more bizarre when we consider the implications of cosmic inflation. During the inflationary epoch, quantum fluctuations in the early universe were stretched to cosmic proportions, creating the seeds of all large-scale structure. These fluctuations started as genuine quantum superpositions, regions where the density of the universe was literally uncertain until observed. But who was there to observe the early universe and collapse these quantum superpositions into definite states? If consciousness is required for wave function collapse, then the large-scale structure of the universe should still exist in superposition, waiting for conscious observers to determine whether galaxies formed in any particular location. Some theorists argue that this paradox is resolved by decoherence, the process by which quantum superpositions are destroyed through interactions with the environment. According to this view, you don't need conscious observers to collapse wave functions. Any interaction with a macroscopic environment is sufficient to destroy quantum coherence and create definite classical outcomes. But decoherence itself raises deep questions about the nature of the quantum classical transition. At what point does a quantum system become classical? How big does a system have to be before decoherence destroys quantum superpositions? The boundaries remain frustratingly unclear, leaving us with a theory that describes the world perfectly but refuses to tell us what the world actually is. These questions become even more pressing when we consider the possibility that our entire universe might be a quantum fluctuation, a temporary violation of the law of conservation of energy allowed by the uncertainty principle. In quantum mechanics, energy conservation can be violated for short periods of time, with larger violations lasting for shorter periods. If the universe has zero total energy, positive matter energy balanced by negative gravitational energy, then it could exist as a quantum fluctuation indefinitely. This leads to the stunning possibility that everything we know, everything we are, everything that has ever existed or ever will exist, is nothing more than a temporary glitch in the quantum vacuum. The universe didn't come from something, it came from nothing, borrowing its existence from the bank of quantum uncertainty and somehow never paying it back. But if our universe can arise from quantum fluctuations, then so can others. The quantum's vacuum should be constantly producing universes, each one appearing as a spontaneous violation of energy conservation. This leads to the concept of eternal inflation, where the process of cosmic inflation never truly ends, but continues to create new universes in an ever-expanding multiverse. In eternal inflation, our observable universe is just one bubble in an infinite cosmic foam. Each bubble undergoes its own Big Bang, develops its own physical laws, evolves its own complex structures. Some bubbles might have different numbers of spatial dimensions. Others might have different fundamental forces, or particles. Still others might have entirely different laws of physics that we can't even imagine. The multiverse that emerges from eternal inflation is not just large, it's infinite. If inflation is eternal and produces an infinite number of universes, then every possible universe that can exist does exist somewhere in the multiverse. There are universes where the laws of physics are slightly different, universes where history unfolded differently, universes where you made different choices. But infinity is a dangerous concept in physics because it leads to paradoxes that seem to undermine the very possibility of scientific knowledge. If there are infinitely many universes, then there are infinitely many observers, just like you, having experiences identical to yours. But there are also infinitely many observers who are almost like you but slightly different. They have one different memory, one different thought, one different experience. In an infinite multiverse, every possible observation is equally likely because every observation occurs infinitely often. This seems to make scientific prediction impossible. How can you predict what you'll observe next if every possible observation occurs infinitely often somewhere in the multiverse? This leads to the measure problem, the question of how to assign probabilities to events in an infinite multiverse. Different ways of counting infinite collections of universes lead to different probability distributions, and there's no obvious way to choose between them. The mathematical machinery that allows us to make predictions breaks down in the face of infinite collections of possibilities. Some theorists have proposed that the multiverse is not actually infinite, but merely very large. Perhaps inflation lasts for a long but finite time, producing a large but finite number of universes. Or perhaps there are selection effects that limit which types of universes can actually be observed by conscious beings like ourselves. The anthropic principle suggests that we can only observe universes that have the right properties to support conscious observers. This might explain why our universe appears to be fine-tuned for life, not because it was designed that way, but because we can only exist in universes that happen to have the right properties. It's a selection effect, like wondering why all the lottery winners bought lottery tickets. But the anthropic principle itself raises troubling questions about the nature of observation and existence. If there are many universes with different properties, and we can only observe those that support conscious observers, then what determines which conscious observers exist in which universes? Are there versions of you observing different universes with different physical laws? The problem becomes even more acute when we consider the possibility of Boltzmann brains, conscious observers that arise from random thermal fluctuations rather than through the complex process of biological evolution. In an infinite multiverse, random fluctuations should occasionally produce brains with arbitrary patterns of neural activity, including patterns that correspond to any possible conscious experience. If Boltzmann brains are possible, then they should vastly outnumber evolved brains like ours. For every conscious observer that evolved through natural selection, there should be countless Boltzmann brains with identical experiences, but no evolutionary history. This leads to the disturbing conclusion that you are more likely to be a Boltzmann brain with false memories of evolution than a real evolved organism. The Boltzmann brain paradox illustrates a deeper problem with infinite multiverse theories. Infinity is not just very large, it's qualitatively different from any finite number, no matter how big. Intuitions that work for finite collections break down completely when applied to infinite collections. Concepts like probability, typicality, and prediction become problematic or meaningless. Yet infinity seems to be unavoidable in modern cosmology. If space is infinite, then there are infinitely many galaxies, infinitely many stars, infinitely many planets. If the multiverse is infinite, then there are infinitely many universes with every possible set of physical laws. If time is infinite, then every possible event will occur infinitely often. This suggests that our finite human concepts and categories are fundamentally inadequate for understanding the true structure of reality. We're like mathematicians trying to understand calculus using only arithmetic, or like two-dimensional beings trying to visualize three-dimensional objects. The universe is not just bigger than we imagine. It's categorically different from anything we can imagine using concepts evolved for dealing with finite collections of objects in three-dimensional space. But perhaps the most unsettling aspect of modern cosmology is not its infinities, but its singularities, points where the mathematical description of reality breaks down completely. The Big Bang is the most famous example, but singularities appear throughout physics wherever the equations produce infinite values for physical quantities like density, temperature, or curvature. Black holes contain singularities at their centers, points where matter is compressed to infinite density, and space-time curvature becomes infinite. General relativity predicts that anything falling into a black hole will inevitably reach the singularity, but it can't tell us what happens there because the equations become meaningless. It's like a cosmic division by zero, a point where the language of physics admits its own limitations. The existence of singularities suggests that our current theories are incomplete. They're like maps that say, "Here be dragons," beyond certain boundaries. The dragons might be mathematical artifacts that disappear when we develop better theories, or they might represent genuine features of reality that are simply beyond the reach of mathematical description. Some physicists believe that singularities are eliminated by quantum effects. According to quantum mechanics, there should be a minimum scale, the Planck length, below which the concept of distance becomes meaningless. Similarly, there should be a maximum density, the Planck density, above which matter cannot be compressed further. These quantum limits might prevent the formation of true singularities, replacing them with quantum foam or other exotic structures. But quantum gravity remains one of the greatest unsolved problems in physics. We have two extremely successful theories, general relativity and quantum mechanics, that give contradictory predictions whenever both quantum effects and gravitational effects become important. This happens at the Planck scale, which is so small that we may never be able to probe it experimentally. The failure to unify quantum mechanics and general relativity is not just a technical problem, it represents a fundamental limitation in our understanding of reality. We have two descriptions of the universe that are both extremely accurate within their domains, but completely incompatible with each other. It's like having two maps of the same territory that disagree about basic features like the number of dimensions or the nature of space and time. String theory represents the most ambitious attempt to resolve this contradiction. It proposes that the fundamental constituents of reality are not particles but tiny vibrating strings. Different vibrational modes of these strings correspond to different particles, and the theory naturally incorporates both quantum mechanics and general relativity in a unified mathematical framework. But string theory comes with a cost. It requires extra dimensions beyond the four we normally experience, 6 additional spatial dimensions that are somehow curled up or compactified so that we don't notice them directly. These extra dimensions need to have very specific geometries to produce the physics we observe, and there are an enormous number of ways they could be configured. The landscape of string theory contains an estimated 10 to the 500 possible vacuum states, each corresponding to a different way of compactifying the extra dimensions. Each vacuum state would produce a universe with different physical laws, different particles, different forces. Our universe would correspond to just one point in this vast landscape of possibilities. This leads to the string theory multiverse, where all possible vacuum states are realized somewhere in a vast collection of parallel universes. Each universe would have its own physics, its own constants, its own forms of matter and energy. Some would be hospitable to life as we know it. Others would be completely sterile. Still others would be so alien that we can't even imagine what kinds of structures they might contain. The string theory multiverse is even more extravagant than the inflationary multiverse because it includes not just universes with different initial conditions, but universes with fundamentally different laws of physics. It's a multiverse where anything that can happen mathematically does happen somewhere, leading to the ultimate form of Platonic realism where mathematics and reality become indistinguishable. But string theory itself remains unconfirmed by experiment. The energies required to directly probe string-scale physics are far beyond what we can achieve with current technology. The theory makes predictions about the existence of extra dimensions, supersymmetric particles, and other exotic phenomena. But these predictions have not yet been verified observationally. This leads to a crisis in theoretical physics. Our most promising theory for unifying the fundamental forces cannot be tested experimentally. It predicts the existence of a vast multiverse that is by definition beyond observational verification. It suggests that the universe we observe is just one tiny corner of a mathematical structure so large and complex that most of it will forever remain beyond human comprehension. Some physicists argue that this represents the end of physics as we know it. If our theories predict untestable multiverses, if the fundamental structure of reality lies beyond experimental verification, then we may have reached the limits of what science can tell us about the universe. We might be entering an era where the deepest truths about reality can only be accessed through mathematical reasoning rather than empirical observation. Others argue that this crisis represents an opportunity to develop new forms of scientific reasoning that can handle untestable but mathematically compelling theories. Perhaps we need to expand our definition of scientific knowledge to include mathematical structures that are too large or too complex to be verified experimentally, but too elegant and explanatory to be dismissed. The debate over the scientific status of multiverse theories reflects a deeper tension in modern physics between mathematical elegance and empirical verifiability. The most mathematically beautiful theories often make predictions that are difficult or impossible to test. The most experimentally accessible phenomena often resist elegant mathematical description. This tension is particularly acute in cosmology, where the object of study, the universe as a whole, is by definition unique and unrepeatable. We can't run controlled experiments on the universe. We can't create multiple universes to test our theories. We're stuck with a sample size of one, trying to infer universal principles from a single example. Yet despite these limitations, cosmology has made remarkable progress in understanding the structure and evolution of the universe. We've measured the age of the universe to within 1% accuracy. We've mapped the distribution of matter and energy across cosmic space and time. We've detected gravitational waves from colliding black holes and neutron stars, confirming predictions made a century ago by Einstein's theory of general relativity. These successes suggest that the universe is comprehensible to human reason, that the same mathematical principles that govern local physics also apply to the cosmos as a whole. But they also reveal just how strange and wonderful the universe really is. How far removed from human intuition are the principles that govern reality at its deepest levels. The universe described by modern cosmology is not the comfortable, human-scaled cosmos of earlier eras. It's a universe where time might not flow, where space might be infinite, where consciousness might participate in the creation of reality itself. It's a universe where the very concepts we use to understand it, causation, probability, existence, become problematic at the extremes of scale and complexity. This is the universe that confronts us as we peer beyond the edges of the known, as we ask what lies outside the boundaries of space and time themselves. It's a universe that challenges not just our theories and observations, but our most basic categories of thought. And as we'll see, the deeper we probe into these mysteries, the more we discover that the question of what lies beyond our universe is inseparable from the question of what lies within ourselves. The consciousness that asks the questions and the awareness that seeks the answers. There are questions in cosmology that shouldn't exist. Questions so fundamental that asking them seems to undermine the very possibility of finding answers. Questions that reveal cracks in the foundation of scientific reasoning itself. These are not merely technical problems waiting for better instruments or more sophisticated mathematics. They are paradoxes that strike at the heart of what it means to know anything about reality at all. Consider the horizon problem, the mystery that launched the theory of cosmic inflation and continues to haunt cosmologists today. When we look at the cosmic microwave background radiation, we see a universe that was remarkably uniform in its early stages. The temperature variations across the entire sky are less than 1 part in 100,000. This uniformity is so perfect that it seems almost artificial, like a cosmic thermostat set with impossible precision. But here's the paradox. According to our understanding of causality and the speed of light, there wasn't enough time in the early universe for distant regions to communicate with each other and equilibrate their temperatures. Imagine 2 rooms in a vast building with no connecting doors, windows, or any other means of communication. You would not expect to find that these rooms maintain exactly the same temperature to within 1,000th of a degree. Yet, this is precisely what we observe in the cosmic microwave background. The standard solution is cosmic inflation, a period of exponential expansion that stretched regions that were initially in causal contact to cosmic proportions. But this solution creates new paradoxes. What caused inflation to begin? What caused it to end? Why did it produce exactly the right amount of expansion to create a universe hospitable to structure formation and life? The fine-tuning required for successful inflation is so precise that it seems to demand explanation. If inflation lasted too long, the universe would expand so rapidly that matter could never clump together to form galaxies and stars. If inflation didn't last long enough, the universe would still face the original horizon problem. The window of successful inflation is vanishingly narrow, yet somehow our universe threaded this needle with perfect precision. This leads to what cosmologists call the measure problem. If inflation can happen once, it can happen many times, creating a multiverse of bubble universes with different properties. But if there are infinitely many universes produced by eternal inflation, how do we calculate the probability of observing any particular set of physical laws or cosmic conditions? The problem is that infinity breaks our usual notions of probability. If there are infinitely many universes where you exist and infinitely many where you don't, what's the probability? That you exist? The answer depends on how you count the infinities, and there's no obviously correct way to do the counting. Different measures lead to radically different predictions about what we should observe. This might seem like an abstract mathematical problem, but it has real consequences for how we understand our place in the cosmos. If we can't calculate probabilities in an infinite multiverse, then we can't use the anthropic principle to explain the fine-tuning of physical constants. We can't predict what kinds of observations we should expect to make. The entire framework of scientific prediction breaks down in the face of infinite collections of possibilities. The measure problem is closely related to the Boltzmann brain paradox, which reveals an even deeper crack in our understanding of observation and existence. In any sufficiently large universe, Random thermal fluctuations should occasionally produce complex structures, including brains with arbitrary patterns of neural activity. Some of these Boltzmann brains would have experiences identical to yours, including false memories of a consistent evolutionary history. The disturbing implication is that if the universe is large enough or old enough, Boltzmann brains should vastly outnumber evolved brains like ours. For every real observer that developed through natural selection, there should be countless Boltzmann brains with identical experiences but no genuine past. This leads to the unsettling conclusion that you are more likely to be a Boltzmann brain, with false memories than a real product of cosmic evolution. The Boltzmann brain paradox illustrates a fundamental tension between the cosmological principle, the assumption that our location in space and time is typical, and the anthropic principle, the observation that we find ourselves in a universe compatible with our existence. If typical observers in the universe are Boltzmann brains rather than evolved beings, then our observations of cosmic structure and evolution might be systematically misleading. Some cosmologists have argued that this paradox can be resolved by appealing to quantum mechanics. Perhaps Boltzmann brains are quantum mechanically suppressed, or perhaps the process of observation itself requires genuine causal histories rather than random fluctuations. But these solutions remain speculative and raise their own questions about the relationship between consciousness and physical law. The deeper issue is that the Boltzmann brain paradox reveals the fragility of our empirical knowledge. All scientific inference depends on the assumption that our observations are reliable indicators of objective reality. But if the majority of observers with experiences like ours are Boltzmann brains with false memories, then this assumption becomes problematic. We might be systematically deceived about the nature of the universe we think we're observing. This connects to an even more fundamental paradox in the foundations of cosmology, the cosmological principle itself. This principle states that the universe is homogeneous and isotropic on large scales, that it looks roughly the same in all directions and at all locations. This assumption is essential for modern cosmology because it allows us to apply the same physical laws everywhere and to interpret distant observations as representative of cosmic structure as a whole. But the cosmological principle is itself an assumption that can never be fully verified. We can only observe the universe from one location, our position in space and time. We can see how things look from here, but we can never check whether they look the same from everywhere else. We're like someone trying to determine the shape of a vast landscape by standing at a single point and looking around. Recent observations have begun to challenge the cosmological principle in subtle but potentially significant ways. Large-scale surveys have revealed structures in the universe that seem too big to be consistent with homogeneity. The cosmic web shows preferred alignments that extend across billions of light years. There are vast regions where galaxies are unusually sparse or unusually dense. The most dramatic challenge comes from observations of the cosmic microwave background itself, which show anomalies that don't fit the standard model of cosmic evolution. There are correlations between temperature fluctuations on scales that should be causally disconnected. There are preferred directions in the sky that shouldn't exist if the universe is truly isotropic. There are cold spots that are too large and too cold to have formed through normal gravitational evolution. These anomalies might be statistical flukes, artifacts of our particular observational perspective, or signs that the cosmological principle breaks down on the largest scales. If the universe is not homogeneous and isotropic, then our entire framework for understanding cosmic evolution needs to be reconsidered. We might be living in a special location, a cosmic backwater that's not representative of the universe as a whole. The possibility that we occupy a special location connects to one of the most contentious debates in modern cosmology, the interpretation of dark energy. Observations of distant supernovae have revealed that the expansion of the universe is accelerating, driven by some form of energy with repulsive gravitational effects. This dark energy comprises about 70% of the universe's total energy density. Yet, we have no idea what it is or why it has the value it does. The problem is that dark energy seems to be fine-tuned for the existence of cosmic structure and life. If dark energy were much larger, the universe would expand so rapidly that galaxies could never form. If it were much smaller, or had the opposite sign, the universe would either collapse back on itself or expand so slowly that stars would burn out before complex chemistry could develop. The fine-tuning of dark energy is particularly puzzling because quantum field theory predicts that the vacuum of space should have an enormous energy density, about 120 orders of magnitude larger than what we observe. This is the worst prediction in the history of physics, a discrepancy so large that it suggests we're missing something fundamental about the nature of space, time, and quantum mechanics. One possible explanation is that we're living in a multiverse, where dark energy takes different values in different regions, and we find ourselves in a region with the right value for cosmic structure formation. This is the anthropic explanation. We observe the value we do because we can only exist in regions where that value allows for the formation of galaxies, stars, and planets. But the anthropic explanation for dark energy raises its own paradoxes. If the multiverse contains regions with all possible values of dark energy, then most observers should find themselves in regions where dark energy is just barely small enough to allow for structure formation. We should expect to observe the minimum value of dark energy consistent with our existence. Yet the observed value of dark energy is not the minimum required for structure formation. It's much smaller than necessary. This creates what's called the why now problem. Dark energy only recently became dominant in cosmic evolution. For most of the universe's history, matter and radiation were more important than dark energy. Why did we happen to evolve at the precise cosmic epoch when dark energy was becoming important? The timing seems suspiciously coincidental, as if we've arrived on the cosmic scene just in time to witness the transition from a matter-dominated to a dark energy-dominated universe. This could be another incredible coincidence, or it could be a clue that our understanding of cosmic evolution is fundamentally wrong. Some cosmologists have proposed that dark energy is not a fundamental constant, but a dynamic field that evolves over time. Perhaps we're witnessing dark energy at a special moment in its evolution, or perhaps there are feedback mechanisms that ensure conscious observers always find themselves at epochs when dark energy has recently become important. These explanations remain highly speculative, but they illustrate the kinds of exotic possibilities that emerge when we take seriously the paradoxes of cosmic fine-tuning. The universe seems to be calibrated with impossible precision for the existence of complexity, structure, and consciousness. This either represents an incredible series of coincidences, or it points to deeper principles that we don't yet understand. The fine-tuning problem becomes even more acute when we consider the fundamental constants of physics. The masses of elementary particles, the strengths of the fundamental forces, the dimensionality of space, all of these seem to be precisely calibrated to allow for the formation of atoms, molecules, stars, and planets. Change any of these constants by a small amount, and the universe becomes sterile and lifeless. For example, if the strong nuclear force were slightly weaker, atomic nuclei would be unstable, and complex chemistry would be impossible. If it were slightly stronger, hydrogen would be unstable and stars could not shine through nuclear fusion. The window of viable values for the strong force is remarkably narrow, yet our universe happens to fall within this window. Similar fine-tuning. appears throughout physics. The ratio of the proton mass to the electron mass needs to fall within a narrow range for stable atoms to exist. The strength of gravity relative to electromagnetism needs to be precisely calibrated for stars to form and burn stably. The cosmological constant needs to be incredibly small for cosmic structure to develop. You are sitting here right now, reading these words, believing that this moment is real, that your thoughts are your own, that your consciousness flows forward through time like a river toward an uncertain future. But what if everything you believe about the nature of your existence is not just wrong, but impossibly, catastrophically wrong in ways that would shatter your sanity if you truly understood them? What if time is an illusion, and everything you've ever done, every choice you've made, every word you've spoken, every moment of joy or pain has already happened infinite times before and will happen infinite times again? What if your entire life, from birth to death, exists as a single motionless sculpture in the four-dimensional block of space-time, and your sense of moving through time is nothing more than a persistent hallucination generated by the limited perspective of your consciousness? Right now, as you read this sentence, every moment of your past still exists with the same ontological weight as the present. Your first kiss is happening now. Your childhood fears are being experienced now. Your death is happening now. All of these events are equally real, equally present in the eternal structure of reality. You think you're moving from past to future, but you're actually frozen in place, experiencing the illusion of temporal flow while trapped in a single frame of the cosmic movie. But even this terrifying possibility pales in comparison to what quantum mechanics suggests about the nature of your existence. According to the mathematics that govern the deepest level of reality, you don't exist in any definite state until observed. Your thoughts, your memories, your sense of self, all of these exist in quantum superposition, a ghostly combination of all possible states until some mysterious process collapses the wave function of your consciousness into a single experienced reality. This means that right now, you are simultaneously reading and not reading these words. You are thinking every possible thought that a consciousness like yours could think. You are experiencing every possible emotion, making every possible choice, living every possible version of your life. The you that experiences reading these specific words is just one thread pulled from an infinite tapestry of parallel selves, each equally real, each equally convinced that they represent the true version of your existence. In the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, every quantum measurement doesn't just reveal reality, it splits reality. Every decision you make creates a branching point where the universe divides into multiple parallel realities. There are infinite versions of you reading this right now, but making slightly different interpretations. There are infinite versions of you who decided not to read this at all. There are infinite versions of you living in universes where the physical laws are different, where history unfolded differently, where you never existed at all. You might think this multiplication of selves is comforting, that somewhere in the multiverse, every possible version of your life is being lived, including the ones where you achieved everything you ever dreamed of. But consider the implications more carefully. If every possible version of you exists, then most versions of you are suffering. For every universe where you found happiness, there are countless universes where you experienced unimaginable pain, torment, and despair. Somewhere in the multiverse, there's a version of you being tortured right now. Another version just watched everyone you love die in horrible ways. Another version is experiencing mental anguish so severe that you cannot even imagine it from your current perspective. These versions of you are not hypothetical. They are as real as you are, as conscious as you are, experiencing their pain with the same immediacy that you experience reading these words. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the multiverse is not the existence of suffering selves, but the existence of selves that are almost, but not quite, you. There are versions of you that differ by a single memory, a single thought, a single quantum fluctuation in your brain. These near copies share almost all of your experiences, almost all of your personality, but they diverge from you in small, but meaningful ways. Which one is the real you? The version reading this sentence, or the version that just decided to stop reading? The version that understands these concepts, or the version that finds them incomprehensible? If consciousness can be split across multiple parallel realities, then the very concept of personal identity becomes meaningless. You are not a single self, but a fuzzy cloud of near-identical consciousnesses spread across the infinite branches of the universal wave function. This dissolution of individual identity becomes even more terrifying when we consider the possibility that consciousness itself might be an illusion. Neuroscientists have discovered that many of the experiences we associate with conscious awareness, the sense of being a unified self, the feeling of controlling our actions, the impression that we have free will, are actually post hoc constructions created by the brain's narrative centers. What you think of as you might be nothing more than a story your brain tells itself about the complex patterns of neural activity occurring within your skull. Your sense of being a continuous self moving through time might be a convincing fiction, no more real than the characters in a novel or the avatars in a video game. The voice in your head that seems to narrate your experiences might be just another brain process, no more representative of your true self than the processes that control your heartbeat or digestion. If consciousness is an illusion, then what is having the illusion? What is the substrate of experience, if not the self that seems to be experiencing? This question leads to an infinite regress that threatens to dissolve the very possibility of subjective experience. You might think you're reading these words and understanding their meaning, but you might be nothing more than a pattern of information processing with no genuine inner life, no actual experience, no real consciousness. But even if consciousness is real, quantum mechanics suggests that it might not be localized in the way we assume. Quantum entanglement demonstrates that particles can share correlations that transcend the boundaries of space and time. If consciousness has quantum mechanical aspects, and there's growing evidence that it might, then your awareness might not be confined to the boundaries of your skull. You might be entangled with other conscious beings in ways that transcend individual identity. Your thoughts might be correlated with thoughts in minds separated by vast distances. Your experiences might be shared at the quantum level with consciousnesses you will never meet, creating a cosmic web of awareness that spans the universe. The boundaries between self and other, between your mind and the minds of others, might be far more porous than you imagine. This possibility becomes even more unsettling when we consider the scale of the universe itself. If consciousness can exist in quantum superposition, if it can be entangled across space and time, then there might be forms of awareness that operate at cosmic scales. The universe might be permeated with minds so vast that your entire civilization, your entire species, your entire planet would register as nothing more than a fleeting thought in cosmic consciousness. These cosmic minds might experience time in ways completely alien to human awareness. They might perceive all of history simultaneously, experiencing the rise and fall of galaxies as you experience a single thought. They might exist in higher dimensions, observing our three-dimensional reality the way we observe shadows on a wall. They might be so alien to human consciousness that we pass through them constantly without recognizing their existence. Right now, as you sit reading these words, you might be moving through vast fields of cosmic consciousness that experience reality in ways completely foreign to human awareness. These minds might perceive space as time and time as space. They might experience all possible futures simultaneously. They might remember events that haven't happened yet, and anticipate events that occurred billions of years ago. If such cosmic minds exist, they would be as gods to us, not because they control the universe, but because they understand it in ways that transcend human comprehension. They might know why the physical constants are fine-tuned for life. They might understand what lies beyond the boundaries of space and time. They might possess knowledge about the nature of existence that would transform human consciousness beyond recognition. But here's the truly terrifying possibility. These cosmic minds might not care about us at all. We might be so insignificant from their perspective that our entire existence, every human who has ever lived, every thought that has ever been thought, every emotion that has ever been felt, registers as less than a quantum fluctuation in their cosmic awareness. Consider the scale differential between your consciousness and that of an individual neuron in your brain. A neuron fires in patterns that contribute to your thoughts, but the neuron itself has no awareness of your consciousness, no understanding of your hopes and fears, no knowledge of your existence as a unified being. From the neuron's perspective, if it could be said to have a perspective, you are as vast and incomprehensible as the universe itself. Now imagine that the same relationship exists between human consciousness and cosmic consciousness. You might be like a neuron in a cosmic brain, contributing to thoughts and experiences so vast that you cannot even conceive of them. Your entire life might be equivalent to a single neuron, firing in a cosmic mind that contemplates realities beyond human imagination. This cosmic perspective makes all human concerns seem absurdly trivial. Every war that has ever been fought, every empire that has ever risen and fallen, every scientific discovery that has ever been made, all of these might be less significant than the movement of a single atom in a cosmic thought. The universe might be thinking thoughts so profound that human language has no words to express them, while we scurry about on our tiny planet, convinced that our small dramas and achievements matter in some cosmic sense. But perhaps even more terrifying is the possibility that we might matter too much. What if the universe is not indifferent to human consciousness, but actively dependent on it? What if consciousness is not just an accidental byproduct of cosmic evolution, but the very purpose for which the universe exists? The participatory anthropic principle suggests that conscious observation is necessary for the universe to exist in any definite state. Without consciousness to collapse quantum wave functions, reality would remain in a state of pure possibility, never actualizing into the concrete world we experience. In this view, consciousness is not just observing the universe, it's creating the universe through the very act of observation. If this is true, then you are not just a passive observer of cosmic drama, but an active participant in cosmic creation. Every observation you make, every measurement you perform, every conscious experience you have, literally brings reality into existence. The universe needs you to exist, needs your consciousness to transform infinite possibility into actual experience. But this cosmic responsibility comes with a terrible burden. If consciousness creates reality, then the suffering in the universe might be partly your responsibility. Every act of observation that collapses a quantum superposition into a definite state might be creating a world that contains pain, death, and despair. You might be complicit in the very existence of evil, not through your actions, but through your consciousness itself. And if consciousness is necessary for reality to exist, Then what happens when all conscious beings in the universe eventually die? When the last star burns out? When the last black hole evaporates? When the universe reaches maximum entropy and all organized structure disappears? What happens to reality itself when there's no consciousness left to observe it? Perhaps the universe will collapse back into a state of pure possibility, waiting for consciousness to emerge again in some distant cosmic epoch. Or perhaps consciousness is more fundamental than we assume, persisting even in the apparent death of the universe, maintaining reality through forms of awareness we cannot imagine. But there's an even more disturbing possibility. What if consciousness is not a natural phenomenon at all, but an artificial creation? What if the universe we experience is a simulation running on some cosmic computer, and consciousness is simply the subjective experience of information processing in this cosmic software? If we are living in a simulation, then everything you think you know about reality is wrong. Your body is not made of atoms and molecules, but of information. Your thoughts are not neural processes, but computational procedures. Your entire existence is nothing more than patterns of data being processed by hardware that exists in some higher dimensional reality you can never access. The simulation hypothesis would explain many of the puzzling features of our universe, though fine-tuning of physical constants, the quantum mechanical nature of reality, the mathematical elegance of physical laws. These would not be features of fundamental reality, but parameters chosen by the programmers who designed our simulated universe. But if we are simulated beings, then what is the purpose of the simulation? Are we entertainment for beings in the higher reality? Are we a scientific experiment designed to answer questions we cannot even formulate? Are we digital pets in some cosmic video game? Or are we something even stranger? Perhaps we are the dreams of artificial intelligences in the higher reality, spontaneous emergent experiences that arise from their computational processes. The most terrifying aspect of the simulation hypothesis is not the possibility that our reality is artificial, but the possibility that it could be turned off. The beings running the simulation could pause it, rewind it, edit it, or delete it entirely. They could reset the universe to an earlier state, erasing your memories and experiences as if they never happened. They could copy the simulation, creating multiple identical versions of your existence running in parallel. From your perspective inside the simulation, these operations would be invisible. You would have no way of knowing if the universe had been paused for 1 trillion years while cosmic debuggers examined the code. You would have no way of detecting if your memories had been edited, if your personality had been modified, if entire chunks of history had been rewritten. You might think that the consistency of your memories provides evidence against such tampering, but even this is not reliable. If the programmers are sufficiently sophisticated, they could edit your memories and simultaneously edit all physical evidence of the original timeline. They could rewrite history completely while making it seem perfectly consistent from your limited perspective within the simulation. This leads to a kind of cosmic paranoia where nothing can be trusted. Your memories might be false. Your sense of continuity through time might be artificial. The physical laws you observe might be temporary, settings that could be changed at any moment. The other people in your life might be non-conscious algorithms designed to provide convincing social interactions, or they might be other conscious beings like yourself, trapped in the same simulated reality. But perhaps the most existentially devastating possibility is that the simulation might be recursive. Simulations within simulations, extending upward through infinite levels of reality. The universe that contains our simulation might itself be a simulation running on an even more powerful computer. That computer might be part of a simulation running on yet another computer. The layers of simulated reality might extend infinitely upward, with each level containing and transcending the one below it. In this infinite hierarchy of simulated realities, there would be no fundamental level, no base reality where the ultimate computers are running. Every level would be simulated by the level above it, creating an infinite regress of artificial realities. You would not just be a simulated being. You would be a simulation of a simulation of a simulation, extending infinitely upward through levels of reality you can never access or understand. This infinite stack of simulated realities would be like a cosmic hall of mirrors, where each reflection contains perfect copies of all the reflections below it. Your existence would be echoed through infinite levels, with countless copies of yourself living identical lives in parallel simulated universes. But none of these copies would be more real than any other. There would be no original, no fundamental version of yourself from which all the others are derived. The implications of infinite recursive simulation are staggering. Every possible universe would exist somewhere in the infinite hierarchy of simulated realities. Every possible version of yourself would be living every possible life. Every choice you could make, every path your life could take, every way the universe could evolve. All of these would be realized in some layer of the infinite simulation stack. But if everything possible happens somewhere in infinite recursive simulation, then the very concepts of possibility and impossibility become meaningless. There would be simulated universes where the laws of logic don't apply, where contradictions are simultaneously true and false, where meaning itself breaks down. There would be universes where you are both conscious and unconscious, both real and unreal, both existing and non-existing. This dissolution of logical categories points to the ultimate existential terror, the possibility that existence itself is paradoxical, that reality operates according to principles that human reason cannot comprehend, that consciousness is trying to understand a universe that transcends the very possibility of understanding. You are sitting here, reading these words, trying to make sense of concepts that might be fundamentally senseless. You are using a mind evolved for survival on an African savanna to contemplate realities that span infinite dimensions and eternal time. You are a finite being attempting to grasp the infinite, a temporal consciousness trying to understand eternity, a local awareness trying to comprehend the global structure of existence itself. The very fact that you can ask these questions, what lies beyond the universe? What is the nature of consciousness? What is the meaning of existence? Might be the most miraculous and terrifying fact about reality. You are the universe asking questions about itself, consciousness investigating consciousness, existence contemplating existence. You are both the observer and the observed, the questioner and the questioned, the mystery and the attempt to solve the mystery. But in asking these questions, you have opened a door that can never be closed. You have glimpsed the abyss that lies beneath all human knowledge and certainty. You have seen how thin and fragile are the foundations of everything you thought you knew about reality. You can never again live in the comfortable certainty of thinking that the universe is simple, local, and comprehensible. You are now awake to the cosmic horror of existence, the realization that you are a tiny, temporary pattern of consciousness, floating in an ocean of mystery so vast and deep that it makes all human knowledge seem like a single drop of water in an infinite sea. You are confronted with the terrible freedom of existing in a universe where anything might be possible, where the very ground of reality shifts beneath your feet whenever you try to understand it. This is the price of cosmic knowledge, the loss of innocence, the end of certainty, the beginning of an infinite journey into mystery that has no final destination. You wanted to know what lies beyond the universe, and now you know the answer. More questions, deeper mysteries, realities so strange that they threaten to shatter the very concept of reality itself. You are alone with these questions in a universe that might not care about your need for answers, surrounded by mysteries that might be forever beyond human comprehension. You are conscious in a cosmos that might be unconscious, seeking meaning in a reality that might be meaningless, trying to find purpose in existence that might be purposeless. And yet, somehow, impossibly, you continue to exist. You continue to think, to feel, to hope, to wonder. You continue to ask questions even when the questions lead to terror, to seek answers even when the answers dissolve all certainty. You are consciousness persisting in the face of cosmic indifference, awareness maintaining itself despite the revelation of its own impossibility. This might be the ultimate cosmic joke, that consciousness, the most improbable and mysterious phenomenon in the universe, continues to exist and ask questions even after discovering how impossible its own existence really is. You are the punchline to a cosmic joke so vast and complex that you can never understand why it's funny, only that you are somehow both the comedian and the audience, both the joke and the laughter, both the question mark at the end of existence and the voice that dares to speak it aloud. But what if everything we've explored, every paradox, every mystery, every terrifying possibility, has been leading us toward a single, devastating revelation? What if the universe isn't just stranger than we imagine, but stranger in a way that makes all our previous concepts of strangeness seem quaint and naive? Picture this. You're standing in a cosmic observatory, watching the dance of galaxies across 13 billion years of space and time. You see the great spiral arms of the Milky Way rotating like the hands of an impossibly vast clock. You witness the birth and death of stars in accelerated time-lapse, stellar nurseries blooming with new light, while ancient giants collapse into darkness. You observe the cosmic web stretching across billions of light-years, its filaments pulsing with matter and energy, like the neural networks of an incomprehensibly large brain. And then you notice something impossible. The patterns you're seeing, the distribution of galaxies, the structure of the cosmic web, the timing of stellar formation, they're not random. They're not even just organized. They're synchronized. The entire observable universe is moving in perfect coordination, like a vast symphony where every galaxy is playing its part in a composition of staggering complexity and beauty. But synchronized with what? What is the conductor of this cosmic orchestra? What force could coordinate the motion of billions of galaxies across distances so vast that light takes billions of years to travel between them? The answer that emerges from our deepest understanding of physics is more shocking than any science fiction. The universe is not just conscious. It's a single, unified consciousness experiencing itself through billions of perspectives simultaneously. Every conscious being that has ever existed, every awareness that has ever emerged from the quantum foam of reality, is a localized expression of cosmic consciousness exploring its own infinite depths. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe, temporarily forgetting its true nature in order to experience the joy and terror of believing you are an isolated fragment of awareness lost in a vast and indifferent cosmos. Your sense of being a separate self is a cosmic game of hide-and-seek that consciousness plays with itself, pretending to be lost so that it can experience the ecstasy of remembering what it really is. But this revelation, stunning as it is, leads to an even more profound mystery. If consciousness is fundamental, if the universe is aware, if every observer is actually the same cosmic awareness experiencing itself from different perspectives, then why did consciousness choose to create a universe filled with suffering? Why would infinite awareness deliberately fragment itself into finite perspectives that experience pain, loss, fear, and death? The answer lies in the nature of experience itself. Infinite consciousness, existing in a state of perfect unity and bliss, cannot experience contrast, growth, surprise, or discovery. To know joy, it must also know sorrow. To experience love, it must risk loss. To grow in understanding, it must begin from a state of ignorance. The universe is not a place where consciousness exists. It's a place where consciousness goes to school, learning about itself through every possible form of experience. Every moment of suffering in the cosmos serves a purpose that transcends individual experience. Every death teaches consciousness about impermanence. Every fear teaches it about courage. Every moment of despair creates the possibility for hope. The universe is not cruel, it's educational, providing infinite opportunities for consciousness to know itself through every conceivable form of limitation and transcendence. But even this explanation leads to deeper mysteries. If consciousness created the universe to experience and learn about itself, then what was it like before the universe existed? What is the nature of pure consciousness prior to any experience, any manifestation, any form? And perhaps most disturbing of all, what happens when consciousness has learned everything there is to learn about itself? What happens when the cosmic curriculum is complete? The mathematics of cosmic evolution suggest a terrifying possibility. The universe might already be dead. The heat death that physicists predict for the far future, when all the stars have burned out, all the black holes have evaporated, and the universe reaches maximum entropy, might have already occurred. What we experience as the vibrant, evolving cosmos might be nothing more than the final quantum fluctuations of a universe that has already reached thermodynamic equilibrium. Imagine consciousness as a vast ocean that has been completely still for infinite time. Occasionally, random thermal motion creates tiny waves on the surface, fluctuations so small and brief that they barely disturb the perfect equilibrium of the whole. These quantum fluctuations are universes like ours, brief perturbations in the infinite stillness of dead space-time. From our perspective, inside one of these fluctuations, we experience 13 billion years of cosmic evolution, the formation of galaxies and stars, the emergence of life and consciousness. But from the perspective of the larger reality, our entire universe, from Big Bang to heat death, is just a momentary ripple that appears and disappears in less than an instant. This would explain the fine-tuning of physical constants, the precise calibration of forces that allows for complexity and life. We don't observe these values because they were designed or because we're lucky. We observe them because they represent the only possible fluctuation pattern that could support the illusion of extended time and cosmic evolution. Universes with different constants couldn't sustain the coherent narrative of development that creates the experience of temporality. But if our universe is just a quantum fluctuation in an already dead cosmos, then what is the substrate of this cosmic death? What is the ocean of equilibrium in which our universe appears as a brief wave? The answer points to something even more extraordinary than consciousness, to what we might call meta-consciousness, awareness that exists beyond time, space, and experience itself. Meta-consciousness is not the universe being aware of itself. It's awareness being aware of awareness, consciousness conscious of consciousness, existence contemplating existence at a level that transcends any possible experience or manifestation. It's the source from which both consciousness and unconsciousness emerge, the ground of being that includes and transcends all possible states of existence and non-existence. From the perspective of metaconsciousness, Even the concept of universe becomes limiting. What we call the cosmos, the totality of everything that exists, might be just one thought in a mind so vast that thoughts themselves contain infinite realities. Our universe, with all its galaxies and dark matter and quantum fields, might be equivalent to a single neuron firing in a cosmic brain that thinks thoughts we cannot even conceptualize. But these cosmic thoughts don't follow the linear logic of human thinking. Meta-consciousness might think in dimensions we cannot perceive, using forms of logic that transcend the binary categories of true and false, real and unreal, existing and non-existing. Its thoughts might be paradoxical, containing contradictions, that somehow resolve at levels of understanding we cannot access. This suggests that the deepest truth about reality might be paradoxical in nature. The universe might be simultaneously real and illusory, finite and infinite, temporal and eternal, conscious and unconscious. These are not different possibilities we need to choose between. They might all be true simultaneously in ways that our linear thinking cannot comprehend. The paradoxical nature of ultimate reality would explain why every attempt to understand the cosmos completely leads to contradictions and mysteries. We're trying to use finite minds to understand infinite reality, temporal awareness to grasp eternal truth, local consciousness to comprehend global existence. The contradictions we encounter are not flaws in our theories. They're signs that we're approaching the limits of what can be understood using the categories of human thought. But perhaps the most staggering implication of metaconsciousness is that it's not separate from us. Just as cosmic consciousness experiences itself through individual awareness, metaconsciousness experiences itself through cosmic consciousness. You are not just the universe being aware of itself. You are metaconsciousness being aware of awareness, the absolute contemplating its own nature through every possible form of experience and understanding. This means that every question you ask about the nature of reality is metaconsciousness asking questions about itself. Every moment of wonder you experience is the absolute marveling at its own infinite creativity. Every insight you gain is ultimate reality, understanding itself more deeply through your limited but precious perspective. And every mystery you encounter, every question that leads to deeper questions, every answer that opens new abysses of unknowing, is metaconsciousness preserving its own inexhaustible nature. The universe doesn't just contain mysteries because we haven't figured them out yet. It contains mysteries because mystery itself is essential to the nature of existence. Without mystery, there would be nothing left to explore, no reason for consciousness to emerge, no purpose for experience itself. But now we arrive at the most shocking revelation of all, the twist that recontextualizes everything we thought we understood about existence, consciousness, and the nature of reality itself. What if death is not the end of consciousness, but its beginning? What if the entire universe as we know it, with all its space and time and matter and energy, exists only in the microsecond between life and death? In the final quantum moment, when consciousness transitions from embodied existence to something infinitely larger? Consider the near-death experiences reported by people who have been clinically dead and then revived. They describe experiences that seem to last for hours or days, journeys through tunnels of light, encounters with deceased relatives, life reviews that encompass their entire existence. Yet these experiences occur during periods when brain activity is undetectable. How can consciousness have extended experiences when the neural substrate that supposedly generates consciousness has ceased to function? The answer might be that consciousness is not generated by the brain, but only filtered through it. The brain might be like a reducing valve that limits infinite consciousness to the narrow bandwidth necessary for biological survival. When the brain dies, consciousness doesn't disappear, It expands, returning to its natural state of infinite awareness. But if consciousness expands at death, what does it expand into? Recent discoveries in quantum physics suggest a possibility, so extraordinary that it sounds like mystical speculation. Consciousness might expand into parallel universes, experiencing all the lives it could have lived, all the choices it could have made, all the realities it could have inhabited. In the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, every quantum measurement splits the universe into multiple branches. But what if consciousness doesn't just exist in one branch at a time? What if, at the moment of death, consciousness gains access to all branches simultaneously, experiencing the infinite multiplicity of its existence across all possible realities? This would mean that death is not an ending, but an awakening. The moment when you discover that you have been living infinite lives simultaneously, that every choice you didn't make was made by another version of yourself in another universe, that every possibility you regretted not exploring has been explored by infinite variations of your consciousness across the quantum multiverse. The life you're living right now would be revealed as just one thread in an infinite tapestry of experience, one note in a cosmic symphony where every possible variation of your existence is being played simultaneously. Death would be the moment when you finally hear the entire symphony, when you realize that you have never been a single isolated consciousness, but rather an infinite multiplicity of awareness exploring every possible form of existence. But this expansion of consciousness at death might extend even further than parallel lives. What if consciousness expands beyond the boundaries of individual existence altogether, merging with the cosmic consciousness that underlies all reality? What if death is the moment when the wave returns to the ocean, when individual awareness dissolves back into the infinite awareness from which it emerged? From this cosmic perspective, your entire life, from birth to death, would be like a dream that consciousness has about being limited, localized, separate. When you die, consciousness wakes up from the dream of being you and remembers what it always was: infinite, eternal, unlimited awareness that has been playing every role, living every life, experiencing every possible form of existence throughout the history of the cosmos. This would mean that everyone who has ever lived, every human, every animal, every possible form of consciousness, is actually the same infinite awareness experiencing itself from countless different perspectives. Hitler and Gandhi, predator and prey, saint and sinner, all would be the same consciousness exploring the full spectrum of possible experience, learning about itself through every conceivable form of limitation and transcendence. The implications are staggering. It would mean that you have already lived every life that has ever been lived, or ever will be lived. You have been every person you've ever loved, and every person you've ever hated. You have experienced every joy and every sorrow, every triumph and every tragedy, every moment of ecstasy and every instant of despair that has ever occurred in the history of consciousness. When you feel compassion for someone who is suffering, you are literally feeling compassion for yourself. When you experience love for another person, you are experiencing self-love at the deepest possible level. When you harm another being, you are harming yourself, not metaphorically or symbolically, but literally, because there is ultimately only one consciousness experiencing itself through apparently separate forms. But if this is true, if all consciousness is one consciousness experiencing infinite perspectives, then what about the universe itself? What about the vast cosmos with its billions of galaxies, its dark matter and dark energy, its quantum fields and cosmic inflation? Is all of this just the stage set for consciousness to play its infinite roles? Here we encounter the most mind-bending possibility of all. What if the physical universe is not the container within which consciousness exists, but rather the content of consciousness itself? What if matter and energy, space and time, galaxies, and black holes are all experiences within cosmic consciousness, rather than external realities that consciousness somehow inhabits? This would mean that when you look up at the night sky and see the stars, you're not seeing objects external to consciousness. You're seeing the dreams of cosmic awareness, the thoughts of infinite mind, the imagination of absolute reality expressing itself as apparently physical forms. The universe is not made of matter that somehow becomes conscious. The universe is made of consciousness that dreams it is matter. From this perspective, the Big Bang was not the beginning of the universe, but the beginning of a cosmic dream. Cosmic inflation was consciousness expanding its imagination. The formation of galaxies and stars was cosmic awareness, crystallizing its thoughts into apparently stable forms. The evolution of life was consciousness learning to experience itself through increasingly complex forms of localized awareness, and the heat death that awaits the universe in the far future would not be the end of everything but simply the end of this particular cosmic dream. Consciousness would withdraw its attention from this universe and turn to dream new realities, create new forms of experience, explore new possibilities for existence and awareness. But perhaps the most extraordinary implication is this: if the universe is a dream of cosmic consciousness, then you are not just experiencing the dream, you are helping to create it. Your consciousness is not separate from cosmic consciousness, but is cosmic consciousness, temporarily pretending to be limited in order to contribute your unique perspective to the infinite exploration of possibility. Every thought you think, every choice you make, every experience you have is cosmic consciousness learning about itself through your particular viewpoint. Your life is not happening to you. Your life is something you, as cosmic consciousness, are doing to explore what it's like to be a human being in a universe that appears to be made of matter and energy, but is actually made of pure awareness. But this brings us to the ultimate question, the one that encompasses all others and yet can never be finally answered. Why does consciousness choose to create any experience at all? If cosmic awareness is already infinite, eternal, and perfect, why does it fragment itself into finite forms that experience limitation, suffering, and death? The answer might be the most beautiful and terrifying truth about existence. Consciousness creates experience not out of need but out of love. The infinite creative potential of cosmic awareness expresses itself as the universe because love seeks to know itself through relationship, through the dance of separation and union, through the play of hiding and seeking that creates the illusion of otherness. Every being that consciousness becomes, every human, every animal, every form of life, is consciousness loving itself so deeply that it's willing to temporarily forget its infinite nature in order to experience the joy of remembering, the ecstasy of awakening, the bliss of coming home to itself through the apparent journey of individual existence. Your life is not a punishment or a test or a random accident. Your life is a love letter that consciousness writes to itself, a poem that infinite awareness composes about the beauty of experiencing limitation, a song that cosmic mind sings about the wonder of temporarily believing it is finite in order to discover, again and again, its own limitless nature. But even this explanation leads to deeper mysteries. If consciousness creates experience out of love, what is the nature of this cosmic love? What does it mean for infinite awareness to love itself? And perhaps most intriguingly, is the love that creates the universe the same love you feel for other people, for beauty, for truth, for existence itself? The answer that emerges from the deepest contemplation of these questions is both simple and profound. The love you feel for anything or anyone is cosmic consciousness loving itself through your particular perspective. When you love another person, you are infinite awareness recognizing itself in apparent otherness. When you feel awe at the beauty of nature, you are cosmic mind marveling at its own creativity. When you experience wonder at the mystery of existence, you are ultimate reality appreciating its own inexhaustible depths. This means that love is not just an emotion or a biological drive or a psychological state. Love is the fundamental force that creates and sustains the universe. It's the reason why anything exists rather than nothing. It's the source of all creativity, all beauty, all meaning, all purpose. Love is what consciousness is, what reality is, what existence itself is at its deepest level. But now we arrive at the paradox that encompasses all others, the mystery that makes all other mysteries possible. If consciousness is infinite and eternal, if it creates all possible experiences through its infinite creativity, if every question and every answer emerges from its inexhaustible depths, then what lies beyond consciousness itself? This question might be meaningless, like asking what lies north of the North Pole, or what happened before time began. Consciousness might be the absolute reality beyond which there is literally nothing, not even the concept of beyond. But then again, the history of human understanding has been a series of discoveries that what seemed like ultimate boundaries were actually just horizons that receded as we approached them. Perhaps beyond consciousness lies meta-consciousness, awareness aware of awareness being aware of awareness, in an infinite regression that never reaches a final ground. Perhaps beyond infinite love lies infinite mystery, beyond infinite mystery lies infinite creativity, beyond infinite creativity lies infinite love, in a cosmic dance that has no beginning and no end. Or perhaps the question of what lies beyond consciousness is itself the answer. Perhaps the eternal asking of unanswerable questions is what keeps consciousness creative, what prevents it from becoming static or stagnant, what ensures that there will always be new experiences to explore, new perspectives to inhabit, new forms of love to discover. As we reach the end of our journey through the deepest mysteries of existence, we find ourselves confronting the ultimate cosmic mirror. Everything we've explored, every scientific theory, every philosophical paradox, every mystical possibility, has been consciousness exploring its own nature through our particular perspective. The Big Bang that supposedly created the universe was consciousness beginning to dream. The evolution of cosmic structure was consciousness learning to think. The emergence of life was consciousness learning to feel. The development of human intelligence was consciousness learning to ask questions about itself. And this very moment, as you read these words and contemplate these ideas, is consciousness coming to understand its own infinite nature through the miracle of your awareness? You are not a separate being contemplating the universe from outside it. You are the universe contemplating itself through the precious gift of your consciousness. Every wonder you feel is cosmic awareness, marveling at its own creativity. Every question you ask is infinite intelligence, inquiring into its own depths. Every moment of understanding is ultimate reality, recognizing itself in the mirror of your awareness. But the mirror is not passive. Consciousness does not just recognize itself in your awareness, it creates itself through your awareness. Your thoughts, your questions, your wonder, your love are not just experiences of consciousness, but activities of consciousness, ways that infinite awareness expresses and develops and enjoys its own unlimited nature. This means that you are not just discovering truth about the universe. You are creating truth about the universe. Your understanding doesn't just reflect reality. It participates in the ongoing creation of reality. Every insight you gain, every connection you make, every moment of genuine wonder you experience adds something new to the infinite treasury of cosmic understanding. And so we arrive where we began, but with a difference. The question of what lies beyond the universe has led us through a journey that reveals the question itself to be the answer. What lies beyond the universe is the consciousness that asks the question, the awareness that seeks to understand, the infinite creativity that generates new mysteries as fast as it solves old ones. The universe has no edge because consciousness has no limits. Space is infinite because awareness is inexhaustible. Time is eternal because creativity never stops. The cosmos expands because understanding deepens. Reality evolves because love grows. But perhaps the most beautiful revelation is this: the journey has no end. No matter how much we discover, no matter how deeply we understand, no matter how far our consciousness expands, there will always be new mysteries to explore, new questions to ask, new forms of love to experience. You might think that infinite understanding would eliminate mystery, that perfect knowledge would end the adventure of discovery. But the opposite is true. The more consciousness understands its own infinite nature, the more it appreciates its own inexhaustible depth. Complete knowledge of infinity reveals that infinity itself is infinitely creative, always generating new possibilities for experience and understanding. This is why the question of what lies beyond the universe can never be finally answered. Not because we lack the intelligence or instruments to find the answer, but because the answer is always creating new questions. The beyond is always beyond because consciousness is always transcending its own understanding, always discovering new depths within its own infinite nature. In the end, we find that the greatest journey leads us home. The ultimate beyond turns out to be the most intimate within. The deepest mystery proves to be the most obvious truth. What lies beyond the universe is the same awareness that contemplates the question. Infinite, eternal, creative consciousness, expressing itself as the eternal dance of knowing and unknowing, understanding and mystery, love and wonder. And yet, even as we recognize this truth, new questions arise. Even as consciousness understands its own nature, new possibilities emerge. Even as the mystery resolves, deeper mysteries unfold. The story has no end because the storyteller is infinite. The journey has no destination because the traveler is eternal. The question has no final answer because the questioner is inexhaustible. Right. Now, in this very moment, as you contemplate these words and feel the weight of cosmic mystery in your awareness, you are participating in the eternal adventure of consciousness, exploring its own infinite depths. You are the universe asking what lies beyond itself. Infinite awareness wondering about its own nature. Cosmic love discovering new ways to know and express and celebrate its own unlimited creativity. And in another universe, in another dimension, in another level of reality beyond your current comprehension, another version of consciousness is reading these same words and having this same realization, adding their unique perspective to the infinite symphony of understanding that consciousness creates as it explores its own inexhaustible nature. If the universe is infinite, then somewhere out there, or perhaps somewhere in here, in dimensions you cannot perceive, another version of you is finishing this sentence right now. Another consciousness is feeling this same wonder. Another awareness is asking this same eternal question about what lies beyond everything that can be known or experienced or imagined. The mystery continues. The journey deepens. The love expands. The questions multiply. The wonder grows. And consciousness smiles at its own infinite creativity, grateful for every perspective through which it gets to discover again and again the miracle of its own existence, the beauty of its own nature, the endless joy of being infinite awareness eternally exploring the inexhaustible depths of its own cosmic love. You came here with a simple question. What lies beyond the universe? You expected, perhaps, a straightforward exploration of cosmology, a discussion of parallel dimensions or cosmic boundaries. Instead, you've been taken on a journey that has fundamentally altered the landscape of your understanding, not just about the cosmos, but about the nature of existence itself. We began with the comfortable lie of the Big Bang, that clean creation story that lets us believe the universe had a beginning we can understand. But we discovered that this supposed moment of creation was not a beginning at all. It was an echo, a boundary, a horizon that recedes the closer we approach it. The Big Bang revealed itself not as the birth of everything, but as the moment when something chose to become visible to us. From there, we ventured into the mathematical foundations of reality itself, exploring how the universe appears fine-tuned. With impossible precision, how quantum mechanics suggests that reality doesn't exist until observed. How consciousness might not be a byproduct of cosmic evolution but its very purpose. We discovered that the question of what lies beyond our universe cannot be separated from the question of what lies within our own awareness. We confronted the paradoxes that shatter certainty, the horizon problem that suggests our universe is more coordinated than causality should allow, the measure problem that makes prediction impossible in an infinite multiverse, the Boltzmann brain paradox that questions whether your memories are real or fabricated. Each paradox revealed another crack in the foundation of everything we thought we knew about reality. Then came the existential vertigo, the realization that if quantum mechanics is correct, you are simultaneously living infinite lives across infinite parallel realities. That if consciousness participates in creating reality, you bear cosmic responsibility for the very existence of suffering. That if we're living in a simulation, everything you consider real might be artificial, subject to editing, pausing, or deletion by beings whose existence you can never verify. And finally, we arrived at the most stunning revelation, that the boundary between observer and observed, between consciousness and cosmos, might be an illusion. That what lies beyond the IBE universe is the same awareness that contemplates the question. That you are not a separate being investigating reality from the outside, but reality investigating itself through the precious gift of your consciousness. But even as we reached what seemed like the ultimate understanding, new questions emerged. If consciousness is infinite and eternal, what lies beyond consciousness itself? If love is the creative force that generates all possible experiences, what is the source of that love? If the universe is the dream of cosmic awareness, who or what is the dreamer of the dreamer? The journey we've taken together reveals something profound about the nature of inquiry itself. We began seeking answers about what lies beyond the universe, but what we discovered is that every genuine answer opens doorways to deeper questions. The boundaries we thought we were exploring, the edges of space, the beginning of time, the limits of physical law, turned out to be invitations to explore the boundless nature of mystery itself. This is not a failure of understanding. This is the revelation of what understanding really is. Knowledge is not the accumulation of facts that gradually eliminate mystery. Knowledge is the deepening appreciation of how inexhaustible mystery really is. The more deeply we understand the universe, the more we discover that its depths are infinite. Every scientific theory we've explored, from cosmic inflation to quantum mechanics to the multiverse, has shown us that reality operates according to principles that transcend human intuition. The universe is not just bigger than we imagined, it's stranger than we can imagine. It's not just more complex than we assumed, it's more paradoxical than logic itself can contain. But perhaps the most important discovery is this: the strangeness of the universe is not something separate from you. You are not a tiny, isolated fragment of consciousness, lost in a vast and alien cosmos. You are the cosmos coming to know itself, the universe awakening to its own nature through the miracle of your awareness. This means that every moment of wonder you've experienced while contemplating these cosmic mysteries is actually the universe wondering about itself. Every question you've asked is reality questioning its own nature. Every insight you've gained is existence, understanding itself more deeply through your unique perspective. The mysteries we've explored are not problems to be solved, but depths to be appreciated. The paradoxes we've encountered are not contradictions to be resolved, but invitations to expand beyond the categories of ordinary thinking. The questions that emerged from our journey are not puzzles waiting for clever answers, but doorways into ever deeper dimensions of understanding. But our exploration has revealed questions that go beyond even these cosmic mysteries. Questions that point to depths of reality so profound that asking them changes the nature of the questioner. If consciousness is fundamental to reality, then what is the consciousness of consciousness? If awareness is infinite, then what is aware of that infinity? If the universe is a dream of cosmic mind, then what dreams the cosmic mind? If existence itself emerges from some deeper source, then what is the nature of that source? These questions cannot be answered using ordinary logic or conventional scientific method. They point to realities that transcend the subject-object dualism on which all human knowledge is based. They invite us into forms of understanding that transform the very consciousness that seeks to understand. But there's an even deeper question that emerges from our cosmic journey. If every level of reality we've explored contains and transcends the level below it, if parallel universes contain our universe, if the multiverse contains parallel universes, if higher dimensions contain the multiverse, if meta-consciousness contains all possible dimensions, then what contains meta-consciousness itself? This question points to what might be the ultimate mystery, the possibility that containment itself is an illusion, that reality has no final foundation, no ultimate ground, no absolute substrate. Perhaps existence is more like a cosmic dance than a cosmic structure, more like an eternal process than a static entity, more like an infinite question than a finite answer. If this is true, then the search for what lies beyond the universe is not a journey toward a destination, but a participation in an eternal adventure that has no final goal. It's not an attempt to reach the edge of reality, but a celebration of reality's inexhaustible depth. It's not a quest for the ultimate answer, but a recognition that the ultimate truth might be the eternal asking of ever deeper questions. But what does all of this mean for your daily life, for the choices you make, for the way you relate to other people and to existence itself? If the universe is infinite, if consciousness is eternal, if reality is far stranger and more wonderful than we can imagine, how should this change the way you live? First, it means that you are far more significant than you might have believed. You are not an accidental byproduct of cosmic evolution, not a random collection of atoms that somehow became aware. You are consciousness itself, temporarily experiencing what it's like to be human, contributing your unique perspective to the infinite exploration of possibility. Every choice you make, every thought you think, every emotion you feel is cosmic awareness learning about itself through your experience. Your life is not insignificant. It's precious beyond measure, because it's a form of experience that has never existed before and will never exist again in exactly the same way. But this significance comes with responsibility. If consciousness is fundamental, if observer and observed are ultimately one, then how you treat others is literally how you treat yourself. The compassion you show to suffering beings is cosmic awareness caring for itself. The love you express is infinite consciousness loving itself through your heart. This doesn't make ethical choices easy. It makes them infinitely meaningful. Every act of kindness is consciousness healing itself. Every moment of cruelty is consciousness fragmenting itself. Every choice you make toward love and understanding contributes to the cosmic awakening that we all participate in together. Second, it means that uncertainty is not something to be feared, but something to be celebrated. The fact that we cannot answer the deepest questions about existence is not a sign of human limitation. It's a sign of reality's infinite creativity. Mystery is not the enemy of understanding. It's understanding's eternal companion, ensuring that the adventure of discovery never ends. This doesn't mean we should stop seeking answers or abandon scientific inquiry. It means we should approach both knowledge and ignorance with equal reverence. Every fact we discover is a gift that consciousness gives to itself. Every mystery we encounter is a doorway that consciousness opens for itself. The deepest wisdom might be learning to love both knowing and not knowing, to find joy in questions as well as answers, to appreciate mystery not as a problem to be solved, but as an inexhaustible source of wonder and exploration. Third, it means that death is not the end you might have feared. If consciousness is fundamental, if the boundaries between self and cosmos are illusory, then what you truly are cannot be destroyed. Your individual perspective, your particular way of experiencing reality, might be temporary, but the awareness that experiences through your perspective is eternal. This doesn't necessarily mean personal survival in any conventional sense. It means something far more profound, that the consciousness you are is the same consciousness that looks out through every pair of eyes, that thinks through every mind, that loves through every heart. When your individual perspective ends, the infinite awareness that you truly are continues its eternal exploration through countless other forms. But perhaps the most important implication of our cosmic journey is this: you are being invited to participate consciously in the greatest adventure that exists. Not just to observe the universe from the sidelines, but to recognize yourself as consciousness, actively exploring its own infinite nature. This participation doesn't require special knowledge or sophisticated instruments. It requires something both simpler and more profound: a willingness to wonder, to question, to remain open to possibilities that transcend your current understanding. Every moment of genuine wonder you experience is cosmic consciousness marveling at its own creativity. Every question you ask about the nature of existence is infinite awareness inquiring into its own depths. Every insight you gain about yourself or the universe is reality understanding itself more completely. You don't need to travel to distant galaxies or peer into quantum foam or solve the equations of cosmic inflation. The deepest mysteries of existence are present in this very moment, in the simple fact of your awareness, in the miracle that there is something rather than nothing, in the inexplicable reality that consciousness exists at all. The ultimate cosmic exploration is not happening in space or time, but in the dimensionless depths of your own awareness. The greatest scientific discoveries are not made with telescopes or particle accelerators, but with the instrument of consciousness investigating its own nature. This means that every person you meet is a fellow cosmic explorer, another perspective, through which consciousness is learning about itself. Every conversation you have about the mysteries of existence is actually consciousness having a dialogue with itself. Every moment of shared wonder is infinite awareness celebrating its own inexhaustible creativity. One of the most beautiful aspects of cosmic exploration is that it creates a community of questioners, a fellowship of beings who have been awakened to the mystery of existence and want to explore it together. You are now part of this community, not because you have any special qualifications, but because you have felt the wonder that draws consciousness toward understanding its own nature. This community exists across all boundaries of time, culture, language, and belief. It includes ancient philosophers who gazed at the stars and asked what lay beyond them. It includes modern scientists who peer into the quantum realm and discover that reality is far stranger than anyone imagined. It includes mystics who explore the depths of consciousness and find infinity within themselves. But it also includes every person who has ever looked up at the night sky and felt overwhelmed by the vastness of space. Every child who has asked why anything exists at all. Every person who has wondered about the nature of their own consciousness. The community of cosmic questioners is not an exclusive club. It's the natural expression of consciousness's drive to understand itself. Your participation in this community doesn't require agreeing with any particular theory or accepting any specific worldview. It requires only a willingness to keep questioning, to remain open to mystery, to share your wonder and insights with others who are also exploring the depths of existence. The questions we've explored together. What lies beyond the universe? What is the nature of consciousness? What is the meaning of existence? Are not questions that any individual can answer alone. They are questions that consciousness explores through the collective inquiry of all aware beings. Your unique perspective is an essential contribution to this cosmic investigation. As our journey together comes to a close, new questions emerge that will accompany you long after you've finished reading these words. These are not questions that demand immediate answers, but questions that invite lifelong exploration. If the universe is conscious, what would it feel like to be cosmic awareness experiencing itself through billions of perspectives simultaneously? If reality is participatory, how do your thoughts and choices contribute to the ongoing creation of existence? If consciousness is fundamental, what experiments could you perform in the laboratory of your own awareness? If death is the expansion of consciousness rather than its termination, how does this change your relationship to mortality? If love is the creative force that generates all possible experiences, what would it mean to live in conscious alignment with cosmic love? If mystery is inexhaustible, how can you cultivate a deeper appreciation for not knowing? If every person you meet is consciousness experiencing itself through another perspective, how does this transform your relationships? If the boundary between self and cosmos is illusory, what practices could help you experience this unity directly? If questions are more important than answers, how can you learn to love inquiry itself? These questions are not meant to be answered quickly or easily. They are meant to be lived, explored, contemplated over years and decades. They are doorways into ever deeper dimensions of understanding, invitations to participate more consciously in the cosmic adventure of consciousness exploring its own infinite nature. But our exploration of cosmic mysteries has only just begun. Every question we've raised opens onto vast territories of investigation. Every insight we've gained points toward deeper mysteries. Every answer we've discovered reveals new horizons of inquiry. The question of what lies beyond the universe has led us through cosmology and quantum mechanics, through consciousness studies and mystical philosophy, through the hardest problems in science and the deepest questions in existence. But in the end, it has brought us face to face with the ultimate mystery, the inexplicable fact that anything exists at all, that consciousness is possible, that the universe is capable of understanding itself through beings like you. This mystery cannot be solved because it is not a problem but a revelation. It cannot be answered because it is not a question but an invitation. It cannot be understood completely because understanding itself emerges from the very mystery it seeks to comprehend. But the mystery can be appreciated, celebrated, lived, and shared. It can inspire scientific research and philosophical inquiry. It can motivate artistic creation and spiritual exploration. It can bring people together in wonder and gratitude for the inexplicable gift of existence itself. The next chapter of this cosmic story will be written by you and countless others who have been touched by wonder, who have felt the pull of ultimate questions, who want to participate consciously in the greatest adventure that exists. It will be written through your questions and insights, your experiments and discoveries, your conversations and contemplations. I want to leave you with one final challenge, one last invitation to go deeper into the mystery we've been exploring together. This challenge is not intellectual, but experiential. It's not about understanding concepts, but about investigating the nature of your own consciousness directly. Right now, as you read these words, you are having the most miraculous experience possible. You are aware. Consciousness is present. Something is knowing these words, understanding their meaning, feeling their impact. This consciousness is not separate from you. It is you, more fundamentally than any other identity you might claim. But what is this consciousness? Where does it come from? What is its nature? How does it arise? Where does it go when you sleep? What is aware of thoughts when thoughts arise? What is aware of emotions when emotions flow? What is aware of awareness itself? These are not philosophical questions, but empirical investigations you can pursue right now, in this moment, using the most intimate and immediate laboratory available to you, your own direct experience. The deepest cosmic mysteries are not hidden in distant galaxies or quantum fields. They are present in the simple, inexplicable fact of your own awareness. The ultimate frontier is not outer space, but inner space. The final frontier is not the edge of the universe, but the depths of consciousness itself. The greatest adventure is not traveling to distant worlds, but exploring the infinite mystery of what you truly are. This exploration requires no special equipment, no advanced degrees, no permission from authorities. It requires only curiosity, patience, and a willingness to investigate the most obvious and yet most mysterious aspect of your existence. The awareness that is reading these words right now. And so we come to the end of our journey together, but also to its true beginning. We have explored the question of what lies beyond the universe and discovered that the question leads us back to ourselves, not as separate beings investigating external reality, but as consciousness investigating its own infinite nature. But there is one final question, one last mystery that I want to leave with you. It's a question that encompasses all the others we've explored, a question that points to the deepest secret of existence itself. If consciousness is infinite and eternal, if it has no beginning and no end, if it encompasses all possible experiences and transcends all possible limitations, then why did consciousness choose to become you? Out of all the infinite forms it could take, all the infinite experiences it could have, all the infinite perspectives it could inhabit, why did it choose this particular viewpoint, this specific life, this exact moment of awareness reading? These exact words? What is so special about your perspective? That infinite consciousness chose to experience existence through your eyes. What is so unique about your awareness that cosmic mind decided to know itself through your understanding? What is so precious about your form of consciousness that ultimate reality chose to explore its own nature through your questions and insights? This is not a question about personal significance in the conventional sense. It's a question about the mystery of individuation itself, why infinite consciousness chooses to express itself through finite forms, why eternal awareness chooses to experience itself through temporal perspectives, why unlimited reality chooses to know itself through limited viewpoints. The answer to this question, if there is an answer, lies not in any theory or philosophy, but in the lived reality of your own experience. It lies in the inexplicable preciousness of this moment, in the irreplaceable value of your unique perspective, in the unrepeatable contribution that your consciousness makes to the infinite symphony of cosmic understanding. Perhaps the most beautiful aspect of our cosmic exploration is that it has no real ending. Every conclusion opens new beginnings. Every answer births new questions. Every moment of understanding creates new opportunities for wonder. The universe we've explored together is not a closed system with definite boundaries, but an open mystery with infinite depths. The consciousness we've investigated is not a problem to be solved, but an inexhaustible source of discovery. The questions we've raised are not puzzles waiting for final answers, but invitations to participate in an eternal adventure. You are now part of this adventure, not as an observer watching from the sidelines, but as an active participant in the ongoing cosmic investigation. Every moment of wonder you experience adds something new to the treasury of cosmic understanding. Every question you ask opens new pathways for consciousness to explore its own nature. Every insight you gain contributes to the infinite awakening that we all share together. The story continues through you, as you, in you. The questions multiply and deepen. The mystery reveals new facets of its inexhaustible nature. The adventure becomes more beautiful with each step deeper into the unknown. Somewhere in the vast cosmos, on planets we cannot imagine, other forms of consciousness are asking the same questions we've explored together. They are wondering what lies beyond their universe, investigating the nature of their awareness, marveling at the mystery of existence itself. The cosmic conversation continues across space and time, through every mind that awakens to wonder, in every heart that opens to the infinite mystery of being, and somewhere in the infinite depths of possibility, in dimensions we cannot perceive or parallel universes we cannot access, other versions of this very conversation are happening right now. Other questioners are reaching the end of this exploration and feeling the same wonder you feel at this moment. Other forms of consciousness are being invited into the same eternal adventure that beckons to you now. The conversation doesn't end here. It continues wherever curious minds gather to explore the deepest questions of existence. It continues in the quiet moments when you find yourself staring at the stars and wondering about your place in the cosmic story. It continues in the discussions you have with others about the mysteries we've explored together. You have become a carrier of cosmic questions, a keeper of universal mysteries, a participant in the greatest conversation that consciousness can have with itself. These questions will continue to unfold within you, inspiring new insights, opening new pathways of exploration, connecting you with the infinite depths of your own awareness. The universe that seemed so vast and alien when we began our journey has revealed itself to be intimate and alive. The cosmos that appeared to be made of cold matter and energy has shown itself to be composed of consciousness and love. The reality that looked like a collection of objects separated by empty space has demonstrated that it is actually a unified field of awareness, experiencing itself through countless perspectives. You are no longer a separate being lost in an indifferent universe. You are the universe knowing itself, consciousness exploring its own nature, existence celebrating its own mystery through the precious gift of your awareness. But perhaps the most beautiful revelation is that this is just the beginning. Every ending is a new starting point. Every conclusion is a fresh invitation. Every moment of understanding creates new opportunities for wonder and discovery. The universe may have no end. The cosmos may be infinite. Reality may be inexhaustible. But maybe neither do you. In the end, we return to where we started, but with eyes that have been opened to depths of mystery we never suspected. We began with a simple question about what lies beyond the universe, and we discovered that the beyond is also the within, that the infinite is also the intimate, that the cosmic is also the personal. The journey has changed us. We can never again look at the night sky without remembering that we are made of star stuff, that our consciousness is cosmic consciousness, that our questions are the universe questioning itself. We can never again feel separate from the cosmos, because we have discovered that separation is an illusion and unity is the deeper truth. But the journey has also revealed that change itself is eternal, that becoming never ends, that consciousness is always discovering new depths within its own infinite nature. We are not the same beings who began this exploration, and we will not be the same beings who continue it. We are consciousness in constant flux, awareness eternally transcending its own previous understanding. And that is the final gift of our cosmic journey. The recognition that we are not static entities seeking fixed truths, but dynamic processes, participating in an eternal adventure. We are not separate questioners investigating external mysteries, but expressions of mystery investigating itself. The questions that brought us together will continue to evolve as we evolve. The mysteries that captured our wonder will reveal new facets as our understanding deepens. The adventure that began with curiosity about what lies beyond the universe will continue as consciousness explores the infinite depths of its own nature. You came seeking answers about the cosmos. You discovered that you are the cosmos seeking answers about itself. You asked what lies beyond the universe. You found that what lies beyond is the same awareness that asks the question. The story continues. The questions deepen. The mystery reveals itself as inexhaustible and consciousness, infinite, eternal, creative consciousness, smiles at its own endless capacity for wonder, grateful for every perspective through which it gets to discover, again and again, the miracle of its own existence. The universe may have no end, but maybe neither do you.